Justin Trudeau resigns. Elon is spreading misinfo and banned the journalist who exposed who Adrian Dittman is. Skip Bayless is getting sued. There's no rape allegations filed on October 7 attacks, Israeli prosecutor says. I don't know about the I don't know what is going on with the Skip Bayless stuff. Happy J6. Oh no, Joy Taylor discourse has been wild. What is that? Is that like a Golden Globes thing, or is that the Skip Bayless sexual assault stuff? It's all of Fox Sports 1. No, Skip stuff. Sportscaster on Fox, Skip Bayless. What is this? You never played the normal game quick match. You only play ranked competitive, and it's brutal. Wait, no, it's not supposed to be. Trump also wants to take over Canada again, but here it is. We're blasted off. We're blasted. Boys, girls, and bees. We're live. We're alive. Let the people know. And there's Kaya right there at January 6th, 2021. She was there. South Korea is spicy too. The guy is still resisting the arrest warrants. Oh yeah, I forgot. There's also South Korea stuff too. The world is not doing all right, ladies and gentlemen. That's all it is. The world is not doing all right. And I'm afraid to tell you that things are most likely going to not get better, but as a matter of fact, most likely get worse. So just gear up for that, okay? Just make sure that you understand that things might not be much better. I thought Kaya was only 2. Were you even pregnant with Kaya back then? Yes. I was pregante. Kaya is about to be 2 this year, so obviously it's a joke. She wasn't at January 6th. Or was she? And I'm lying. Look at how big she is. After all, she simply can't be 2 years old. That would mean that she's still basically a puppy. That's crazy. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, right? NBA Twitter's been going crazy about the Joy Taylor allegations. What is... Okay, well, I'll try to dive into that and develop a better understanding. I don't know what it is. You'd look radiant if you were barefoot and pregnant, bro. Isn't Enron supposed to be dropping something big today? Yeah, I don't like that. The Enron stuff is like so obviously a remnant of a old era of like millennial marketing and jokes. I don't know. I think the Enron stuff is like really cringe. I don't even know if it's like a cryptocurrency thing or not, but it's like very obviously a fake marketing thing, you know? Anyway, that's it. It's official. Congress is certifying Donald Trump's election victory. As you guys know, this is not necessarily something that people were aware of that the American government does until the Republicans decided this was a pivotal moment to strike and potentially change the trajectory of American democracy. What is this? Oh no, it's happening again. Just keep this video to bait some views.
To the Capitol, but those police are gone. I don't see anyone. When we were coming up on the other side, from the west side of the Capitol, we saw a van
oh my
pull
God.
up and a group of
God.
National Guardsmen, and they were running into
oh
the
my
building.
God,
As
they're
they were
storming?
the building,
Liberals are storming the Capitol?
Cheering at them, yelling, you know, not to forget
oh my
their
God.
oath, that they made an oath to this country. I mean, really harassing the National Guardsmen who were running into the building. And so it turned.
Oh my God,
language towards
they're doing it again. No, I'm just kidding. All right. I was the only protester outside Congress. Where was everyone? Let's be real. Let's keep it a $1.50. Okay? Let's be really real. Liberals are not resisting the Trump administration. They're not. Liberals are too busy, both in the halls of Congress and outside, clapping at the normalization of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, and also simultaneously celebrating how good they are at normalizing people like Trump. Okay, look at Lindy Lee. I hate libs so much. I mean, Lindy Lee is like one of the sweatiest and grossest operatives out there. So that's not even, she's like uniquely bad. But my point is we're done. It's over. The American Reich is here. Okay, some might say it's always been here. KKK style. Maoist standard English speakers rejoice. You were right all along. But that's kind of where we're at. That's where we're at. And I mean, look at the liberals celebrating how wonderful they are, celebrating how they preserve these institutions, unlike the silly Republicans. Meanwhile, they're certifying Donald Trump, you know?
Of the House and Senate are gathering in what is there, and there is the Speaker Mike Johnson and Vice President Kamala Harris. It's obviously a bipartisan or even nonpartisan event where the leaders of this country come together to count the electoral votes. There's Ted Cruz, a senator from Texas, who was one of the main individuals who helped cause what happened 4 years ago by putting forward the falsehood that the vice president could somehow do something to stop the electoral count. There's Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries with Catherine Clark, his number two. What are your thoughts as you watch this in action, Caitlin?
Ted Cruz obviously was the first senator to object. And obviously, just looking back on this, what the vice president maintained at the time, as Mark knows well, is that he did not have the power to block the certification on this day 4 years ago.
And he didn't.
What we have seen is the Electoral Count Act that was passed reaffirming that interpretation of the law. So people like John Eastman, who Pence later referred to as a crackpot of attorneys that Trump was listening to at the time, could not make that argument. But also it changed the threshold for how many people have to object to lead to that moment. So even if we were in the exact same situation as 4 years ago, had this law been passed, the threshold would have had to have been much higher than what it was 4 years ago for that to actually happen.
Let's listen in. Vice President Harris is calling for order.
Congress, pursuant to the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Senate and House of Representatives are meeting in joint session to...
I'll be honest, it does kind of feel like maybe they didn't think Donald Trump was Hitler. Of course, this doesn't reflect my opinion on the matter. But it kind of feels like they didn't have any issues with Donald Trump's policies, and they certainly didn't have any issues with Donald Trump either. Okay? And they don't have an issue with the Republican Party either. They went from this is not normal to maybe this should be normal, and this way it'll be fine. And for the record, it's really interesting because you see media coverage on Trump's inauguration. And a lot of people in the media are talking about how crazy it is that Google and Facebook and Jeff Bezos, they're all giving millions of dollars to Trump's inauguration funds. And it's not that weird. If the elites have decided this is the way, if the elites have decided that Trump is just the Republican Party, and this is just how the Republicans are, and we just got to play ball with the Republicans, okay, then yeah, it's not newsworthy, or it wouldn't have been newsworthy in the same way if, companies gave money to the George W. Bush inauguration. To me, it just shows that everyone in America is ready to play ball. All of our elites are ready to play ball. Trump, Teflon Don, he did the dang thing. He did it. He knew that he would face legal scrutiny, chose to fight against it by running for office again, successfully won the election, and now we're in his court. And the Democrats are, I think, totally willing to stand back and stand by. What is this? Jesus Christ, I've been giving money to this man for 29 months. Is today when they certify President Musk? Yes.
Verify the certificates and count the votes of the electors of the several states for President and Vice President of the United States. After ascertainment has been had that the certificates are authentic and correct in form, the tellers will count and make a list of the votes cast by the electors of the several states. The tellers on the part of the two houses will take their places at the clerk's desk.
I just think it's so important to reflect on what we are seeing right now. We talked at the beginning about this complex being...
I want to know what Blue Anon is going to do now, because I thought Blue Anon was talking about how Mamala is going to stop the steal. So as the admiral of the Blue Anon brigades, West Coast Division General, I am at a loss for words here. I'm a little confused. I thought that we were supposed to wait for orders from Kamala Harris. I am the Blue Anon shaman, and as the Blue Anon shaman, I thought this was our opportunity to strike. Kamala was going to not certify. She knew something was up. I thought that the SpaceX had changed out the vote tabulations and that Kamala was going to strike while the iron was hot. What's happening? And as the leader of the West Coast Kamala brigades, I've decided perhaps that they actually infiltrated Kamala, killed her, put her in a CIA black site because she was fighting against the deep state. And this is a clone. That's right. I think Kamala is a clone. Meanwhile, this is liberal January 6th. A crowd of hundreds, if not 1,000, showed up to Meridian Hill, Malcolm X Park, for today's community snow fight in D.C. There it is. Liberal January 6th is happening. And what's funny is they'll also talk about how, like, sweet it is. Like, they'll talk about how great it is that, like, you know, look at us. We're adults, unlike those Republicans. Remember, and there's truth to that. Yes, liberals will not throw their hands up and try to resist or do something about the situation. But then they'll also say, look at that. That's actually a virtue. It's actually a virtue that we are not even resisting the Trump administration after we said he was a Nazi. I still think he is, for the record. Only time will show how much of a Nazi he is, but
being fortified. But it's being fortified
Objection.
Despite the fact that this is peaceful.
Objection. The tellers will dispense with reading formal portions of the certificates after ascertaining that the certificates are regular in form and authentic. The tellers will announce the votes cast by the electors.
A liberal insurrection would have looked very different. We would have escorted the original Broadway cast of Hamilton into the galleries. They would softly sing "History Has Its Eyes on You" as members of the GOP spewed their lies. Yeah, we would do woke gender as well. We would also only tactically snap. Okay, and I say we because remember, I am the Blue Anon Brigadier. Okay, we would also snap, no clapping, just snapping. Guava Shaper, thank you for the 10 community gifted subs. Okay, we would do gender. We would do woke gender. Okay, Broadway musical, jazz hands. We would do a land acknowledgement after the insurrection or before the insurrection. Okay, just remember, we have to do a land acknowledgement first and foremost. We'd have to put marginalized people on a single file line, put them in the front lines, you know, and of course, mandatory drag.
For each state, beginning with Alabama.
Madam President, the certificate of the electoral vote of the state of Alabama seems to be regular in form and authentic, and it appears therefrom that Donald J. Trump
and then the end of the insurrection would be ensuring that we secure enough funds to give to Israel. Another $8 billion to Israel, to be exact, which is what Joe Biden is doing. We would cherish that, and we would celebrate him for doing that.
The state of Florida received 9 votes for president, and J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio received 9 votes for vice president. Madam President, the certificate of the electoral
basically what's happening right now, the
vote of
tellers
state of
alternate
California
reporting on the
seems to be
authenticity
regular in
and the
I think it's so funny. This is yet another testament to the reality that Donald Trump has dramatically changed American norms, American institutions, American politics, and reshaped it in his own image. Nobody before January 6, 2021 ever cared about January 6th. That was not like a media moment. But because he tried to overthrow American democracy in the funniest way possible, now this is also a unique moment where, see, the American Congress has gotten together to certify the vote counts. It's like, this is just purely symbolic. This is the type of thing that like nobody really cared about. It's just super basic stuff in Congress that happens that you normally are supposed to not even know about. No one needs to know that this is a thing. No one is supposed to watch this in real time.
proper form of each of the certificates and the number of votes designated for president and vice president, and then each teller records the results.
This is it's not even PBS material. This is C-SPAN. This gets in the past, this got like 35 views on C-SPAN.
On a paper tally
It does
sheet.
seem boring. It is
And
boring.
at the end of that,
Look at them.
reading all results.
They're describing the process of vote certification. Like what? Of course it's boring. It's so stupid. It's like putting a camera. It's like putting a camera in front of a guy who's just like literally rubber stamping stuff at the FDA every day or something. Like it's just like what? It is incredibly boring procedural stuff. And I think part of the reason why we're hyper focusing on this is to basically repeat a lie that things are normal. Okay? That's it. Things are not normal. And things are not normal. But everyone, the fourth estate, is desperately trying to be like, no. I promise you things are normal. Look at how normal this bureaucratic process is. Everything is fine. Please don't freak out. Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau, in America's hat, Canada, resigned. Part of the reason why he resigned is because he was deeply unpopular, okay? Part of the reason why he was deeply unpopular played a role in the same struggles that Americans are facing as well, where a lot of people have decided that immigrants are the reason why the housing market is out of control. People will point to the carbon tax, or the taxing initiatives that he engaged in for green energy, even though it's an objectively conservative way of trying to tackle climate change. America's other ally, South Korea, experienced a martial law initiative. The president was deposed, and now they're going after him, but they can't even issue an arrest warrant because he's protecting himself with his own Secret Service. America's not saying anything about that either because it's weird. You have war everywhere. The things are just not normal. Things are not normal at all. And it seems like leadership at the helm is more invested in maintaining neoliberalism as the way to go, this like ideological zealotry, rather than try to actually fix some of these problems. And people are getting more and more frustrated, and right-wingers are just winning. They're winning all over. They're winning all over the world where people have not changed. People have not changed their politics at all on the opposing side to fascism. If you have liberals running the show, you're in a really terrible predicament. All the while, we just hyper focus on silly things like this to be like, no, everything is fine, everything is good. Meanwhile, what is Trump doing? While this is happening, Trump is on the other hand consistently saying, oh, we're just going to annex Canada. Now, I think he's joking about that. I don't think he's being serious about that. But I do think it's dangerous and nefarious when he talks about invading Mexico or bombing the cartels. I do think that is something that he might do. I don't think he's joking about that. But as it stands, I fear as though we will just keep looking at things like this to be like, no, everything is fine. Everything is normal.
From all 50 states and D.C., the tellers then compare the results on their 4 tally sheets and all sign all 4 tally sheets. Then the vice president announces the result totals and announces the election of president and vice president. So they are going to be reading through each 50 state and the District of Columbia.
Madam
Results
President,
from Ohio there, obviously the state for J.D. Vance. Back with the team here in New York as we continue to watch what is going on to the counting of the ballot from each of the states. Congressman, you were there 4 years ago. Is it odd watching this?
It is. Well, the funny thing is, we were kind of talking offline here. I was present for 12, 16, and then 20, obviously that thing. And usually, this is a non-event. I mean, I would go, kind of show up, they'd open the session. Half the time I'd go back to my office because you don't even need to be on the floor. And this is over in an hour. And that's how it should be. This is great that it's happening this way. But for me, it's surreal because my attention on what January 6th is obviously has been colored by what January 6th was 4 years ago. That I forgot how quick this actually happens and how really perfunctory it actually is. So this is a good thing today. Again, the new incoming president will make the decision whether he wants to move on from January 6th or not. I'm fine whatever he decides. I think the country would be better off if he did. But yeah, it's good to see this happen today.
Do you think January 6th, years from now, is a date that will live in infamy? Jesus
Christ. Yeah. January 6th is like, at this point, I think it's 100 9/11s, I think. Worse than 9/11 times 100. Obviously, no one cares about January 6th. Who cares? Let the man overthrow the government in peace. Leave him alone. I mean, he is doing that right now, by the way. Ironically enough, he is kind of doing that. So if your argument against Donald Trump is that he destroys institutions because you're a norms respecter and institution defender, then yeah, you're very frustrated about January 6, 2021, and you're not frustrated about January 6, 2025. That's the point. This is exactly what I'm trying to explain to you. Okay. Liberals don't like January 6, 2021 because that destroys institutional norms, because they only care about preserving institutional norms. They don't care about losing to Donald Trump gracefully, graciously, and, falling on the sword like this. That's it.
Use the phrase used for other events. I'm not comparing it at all to
I think we live in split screen America. I think for some of the country it will, and it'll be remembered. I think otherwise it'll fall to the history books. And the reality is this, most of the country did care. It rubbed them the wrong way. They didn't like it. That showed up consistently in polling, but it just didn't rank in the top issues at the end of the day. And I think this was such a historic and wild election cycle, and so many other dynamics entered the last 4 years that in many ways the events of January 6th were eclipsed. And there's a certain privilege involved. I acknowledge it with myself in being able to say, well, I'm a voter against January 6th. I'm voting this way because that day crossed the boundaries for me. But if you feel like the cost of living is too high, the border hasn't been secure, groceries cost too much, and you think that a different candidate, you think Donald Trump's better on that, then
You know that January 6th is what caused Putin to invade Ukraine, right? It also gave Netanyahu the permission structure to do Israeli expansion on Gaza. So yeah, it easily, and now Lebanon and now Syria. So yeah, it's easily worse than 9/11. What? Yeah, that's what happened. Oh my God.
that's who you're going to vote for. And
Okay, I think we've seen enough. Okay, we've seen enough.
The peaceful.
Yeah, breaking news. Kamala Harris announces she will oversee the certification of the 2024 election, and she's going to do it. She's going to do it gracefully.
Transfer of power is one of the most fundamental principles of American democracy. As much as any other principle, it is what distinguishes our system of government from monarchy or tyranny.
Yeah, breaking news. Elected official is going to do her job. Yeah, breaking news. Breaking news. Tomorrow, Kamala Harris is also going to sign off. She's still going to continue overseeing the Senate. Breaking news. As the vice president, this is her duty. Breaking news. On January 20th, they will hand over the reins of the government to Donald Trump's administration. Breaking news. Yeah, I know. This is just how it is. This is how it goes.
Today at the United States Capitol, I will perform my constitutional duty as Vice President of the United States to certify the results of the 2024 election. This duty is a sacred obligation, one I will uphold, guided by love of country, loyalty to our Constitution, and my unwavering faith in the American people. As we have seen, our democracy can be fragile, and it is up to then each one of us.
This kind of attitude is so funny because they make it seem as though the Republicans, if given the opportunity, wouldn't do a million January 6s over and over again. Hey, we're leading by example. See, this is how you really do it. And if you're engaging in this pageantry of a normal piece of the process, normal bureaucracy, as though this is a valuable lesson to instill upon the American public, make no mistake, they do not care. Your enemies do not care. Well, I guess your Republicans aren't really her enemies, if we're being real, or the Democratic Party's enemies, but they are the enemy of the American people. I'm just going to repeat this over and over again in perpetuity. Institution respecters and norm defenders, when they lose to the Republican Party, end up also failing on both fronts, because the Republicans will never defend the institutions or the norms. They only care about getting their way.
To stand up for our most cherished principles and to make sure that in America, our government always remains of the people, by the people, and for the people. May God bless you. and may God bless the United States of America.
That's right. Oh my God. You are grossly underestimating Kamala 2028. I am telling you right now, Kamala Harris's political career is done. Okay? It is done. It is Jover. Oh, Hasanabi head in the news. His dad is in prison for January 6 crimes. He doesn't want Trump to pardon him. Oh my God. Repping the merch and everything. That's crazy. All right, let's take a look.
If Trump pardons your dad, what's your biggest fear?
You know, just getting shot in the street. I don't know.
By your father?
By my father, by someone he knows. There's a bunch of people that I don't know, and I don't know their intent. So, you want to help me lift this?
Sure. This is Jackson Reffitt. Do you want me to take this end here, or how do we do this?
Yes, please.
He's moving out of his home here in Texas, he says, for his own safety.
Bought a gun because I got so paranoid, and moving out because I'm scared.
Do you know how to fire a gun?
Yeah, I've been shooting it.
Do you have it on you right now?
Yeah, I have to wear it around the house kind of often just to get used to how it feels.
Okay.
But I'm part of the,
Jackson's dad is Guy Reffitt, who is a member of the Texas 3%er militia.
And I just kept going, go forward! Forward! I couldn't even see, bro.
He's serving a more than 7-year sentence for his role in the January 6th Capitol attack. Reffitt was convicted of 5 felonies, including carrying a firearm on Capitol grounds. So you reported your dad to the FBI?
Yes.
That's what got him arrested, basically?
More or less, yeah.
Oh,
what
God.
effect has that had on your family?
I'm actually worried, man. I'm actually worried. I'm worried. Can you explain the difference between you and a norm defender? I don't care about norms. I don't care about institutions. I care about people. I care about preserving. I care about protecting people. I care about doing right by others. Okay? I'll give you one immediate example. The Senate parliamentarian refused to add the increasing of the minimum wage to $15 at the federal level to a budget reconciliation bill. That was a must-pass bill that was going to pass with 51 votes, which the Democrats had at the time. Now, the Senate parliamentarian is a position that technically has the power under our norms and institutions to say, well, this can't be a part of budget reconciliation because it's actually not going to touch the deficit, right? That's real. That's a thing that they have. It's not an elected position, however. It's an appointed position. What that means is you can actually fire that person and put into that position a person who will play ball. Now, the reason why I know that that is the case is because the Republicans have done that in the past. The Republican Party under Dick Cheney's leadership did exactly that. They fired a Senate parliamentarian and put a new person there. The Democrats, on the other hand, go, oh, we care about our institutions. We care about the norms. So we have to take out the $15 minimum wage. There's nothing we can do. Okay? It's ridiculous. You're only doing that as a part of the Democratic Party leadership structure because you don't want $15 minimum wage. You don't want to have that battle. You don't want to whip those votes within your own caucus. And you don't really necessarily care. Okay? It would have technically been considered a violation of the norms, right? If they were to fire that person, or at least tell that person that they're going to fire that person if they don't play ball. But ultimately, I don't care. What I care about, on the other hand, I don't care about the norms. I don't care about the institutions. I care about, protecting people. I care about putting people first. Anyway, going back to this, this is truly terrifying. I'll be honest.
It's destroyed it.
Was there a moment where you thought, I know my dad's done all this stuff, but I don't want to report him?
Yeah. I still feel horrible, of course. Like, I can't get over it, but I don't regret it.
When was the last time you spoke to your dad?
5 months ago. It was the first time I talked to him. And it was just a crying fest for the first 10 minutes, and that was great. And then I brought up the fact that I'm worried about him getting out. And he was almost puzzled, like he was confused as to why I thought that.
Are you overreacting?
No, I get death threats daily, hourly at this point.
Unbeknownst to us, it was our 18-year-old son who turned his dad in to the FBI. My son is a declared democratic socialist.
Jackson's...
They've like abandoned this person. You know what I mean? They're just like, yeah, he's an enemy. He's an enemy of the state. He's an enemy of our beautiful president, Donald Trump. That is not good. That is definitely insane. Imagine having your parents put a crosshair on your back like that in a room full of people who are just out of their minds.
Mom, Nicole.
The party of family values, dude. Crazy.
Has become one of the most prominent people campaigning for the release of people serving time for January 6th.
Lift up each and every one of our J6ers, Father.
You've been coming here for hundreds of nights.
Almost 900.
Why?
You know, after I saw what happened to my husband, I could not sit on my hands at home anymore.
Christopher Al.
Oof, no wonder, dude, no wonder. I mean, no wonder he's moving. I mean, look at this. Imagine this being your mom. That's crazy. I mean, there are some chatters whose moms are like this, but even then, they're not like, I don't think they put a target on your back, right? I mean, this is brainworms, man. This is so, be nice, question mark. What are you talking about? Be nice. What are you talking about? If your mom, Chuck Dilly, okay, sat in a room full of like 3%ers and Proud Boys at a gathering and went, Chuck Dilly is an enemy of our cause, our movement, okay, in perhaps one of the most like heavily armed and radicalized groups that you can talk to, declare you to be an enemy, I would protect you as well against your parents. I would still love her. Okay, well, I don't think that is reciprocated, it seems.
Nicole left Texas and moved to Washington, D.C., where she takes part in a nightly vigil held here outside the city's jail.
Marcus Malley.
Do you wish Guy didn't come here on January 6th?
No, I'm glad he stood up for something.
Every night, January 6 prisoners from around the country call into the vigil.
Continue holding the line, this thing's almost done.
Including Guy Reffitt, who recently called in to wish Nicole a happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Sorry I couldn't get you something better than 80 months, but you know.
Are you confident that Trump will let your husband walk free?
I feel like Trump is a man of his word.
What's the next step for your family?
To continue to fight.
Together.
Nicole is sometimes joined in D.C. by her two daughters, Jackson's sisters, who've been caught in the middle of a divided family.
Is not shown on my father. We have nothing against Jackson. Jackson's my brother. I love him. I love him no more than I love my father. I love my father. I love my family.
From the beginning, the girls and I have received hundreds.
I don't think she's happy that her son stood up for something. I think she's very upset that her son stood up for something. She's happy that the dad stood up for Donald Trump because I think she loves Donald Trump more than she loves many things. But I mean, you can kind of tell when someone is bricked up here a little bit. If they're, I mean, at this point, like if you got like a little Jesus wagon thing going on with like a megaphone where you kind of carry that around everywhere, it's just like you need like a factory reset or something.
Hundreds of mailed death threats. I'm not talking about online things. I'm talking about rape to my daughters, death to my husband, death to me.
You don't think Jackson has to be afraid of his dad?
No.
Yeah.
I think that's been put on the record several times.
So why is Jackson still afraid?
I just think that it's the same thing where people think this red hat on my head is scary and dangerous. It's that same mentality. Jackson comes from a lot of love, and there's a lot of love left to be given. Justice for all.
I mean, I love my mom, of course. I love her.
Do you love your dad?
Of course I love my dad. I love my dad, but I can't feel safe around him. I hate having to put myself in this situation to feel some sort of comfort after the election and what's going to happen when my dad gets pardoned, when all these hundreds of people get pardoned, and all these thousands of people get validated for their actions. And I'm one of those people that they call a traitor. And my dad once said traitors get shot. So that's been ringing in my head for years and years and years.
In a message from prison, Guy Reffitt said that Jackson has never had anything to worry about from me, and he will never have anything to worry about from me ever.
If your dad's watching this, what's your message?
I don't think, dude, I don't think you're, I mean, look, I can't know your personal experience, Chatter. I don't know if you're in here or not, but I don't think you have to worry about your dad. I think it's more so other people that are in that community that you might have to worry about.
Message to him.
That I love him and that I hope he gets better. And I hope I get better too. I hope I grow out of this paranoia right now and that I really thought what I did was right. I thought I did what I did to protect him and my family and the people around him and the people he could have hurt.
Let's talk about January 6th. I am interested in your kind of reflections on where we've come to. We've been playing images from that day in 2021 and talking about it through the morning. Obviously now Donald Trump's election set to be certified. He'll then.
I think that we are going to see more of this like militia stuff. We're going to see more militia mobilizations happening under the Trump administration, especially considering that a lot of the militia movements historically, whether it be the Klan, have always operated in this weird space where they both have members within the Klan that are prominent members within the legal structure, whether it be judges or cops, right? But I think now we are, especially under the first Trump administration, that grew a lot in size and prominence. And under the second Trump administration, you are going to see the lines, the supposed quote unquote distinction between our legal structure, our police force, our military, our National Guard, and these sorts of militia movements merge a little bit more. I think those lines there's never really been like a hard boundary between the two, especially historically. But I think that we're completely going to cast aside what remained of this aesthetic boundary between the Proud Boys and the 3%ers and these kinds of like white nationalist, far right militias and, Republican local officials all the way up to federal officials as well. This is perhaps the greatest example of what I'm talking about. ProPublica reported by Joshua Kaplan reported about a guy who went and intercepted the militia movement. Okay, John Williams. He went in and joined the ranks of the Oath Keepers. Okay. And it's really interesting because he didn't do this in unison with the federal agents. He didn't do this in collaboration with police officers. He didn't even do this. He did this seemingly on his own. He was like, I want to investigate what is going on here. And then after the fact, he turned around and gave all of this information to ProPublica reporters. For years, he carefully monitored the activity and found out something that we kind of knew already, which we had talked about before, especially with respect to the Proud Boys in Portland, for example, that these guys are directly in contact and sometimes directly working with members of law enforcement. Shocking. I'll give you some of the highlights. A freelance vigilante, a wilderness survival trainer, spent years undercover climbing the ranks of right-wing militias. He didn't tell the police or the FBI. He didn't tell his family or friends. He penetrated a new generation of militia leaders, which included doctors and government attorneys. Experts say that militias could have a renaissance under Donald Trump. He sent ProPublica a massive trove of documents and conversations he secretly recorded, give a unique, startling window into the militia movement. On April 1st, 2023, Williams retrieved the bag from his closet and rushed to his car. He had no time to clean the dishes that he accumulated in his apartment. He did not know if armed men were out looking for him. He did not know if he would ever feel safe to return. He parked his car for the night in the foothills overlooking Salt Lake City and curled up his 6'4" frame in the back seat of a 20-year-old Honda. This was his new home. He turned on a recording app to add an entry to his diary. His voice started a high-pitched rasp of a lifelong smoker. Where to start, he sighed, taking a deep breath. After more than 2 years undercover, he'd been growing rash and impulsive. He had feared someone was in danger and tried to warn him, but it backfired. Williams was sure that at least one person knew he was a double agent now, he said into his phone. It's only a matter of time before it gets back to the rest. In the daylight, Williams dropped an envelope with no return address in a U.S. Postal Service mailbox. He'd loaded it with a flash drive and a gold Oath Keepers medallion. It was addressed to me. The documents laid out a remarkable odyssey. Posing as an ideological compatriot, Williams had penetrated the top ranks of two of the most prominent right-wing militias in the country. He'd slept in the home of a man who claims to be the new head of the Oath Keepers, rifling through his files in the middle of the night. He'd devised elaborate ruses to gather evidence of malicious ties to high-ranking law enforcement officials. He'd uncovered secret operations like the surveillance of a young journalist, then improvised ways to sabotage the militants' schemes. In one group, his ploys were so successful that he became the militia's top commander in the state of Utah. Now, he was a fugitive. He drove south towards a desert 4 hours from the city where he could disappear. That's right. Now, what's really interesting about this story is, once again, this was not a federal law enforcement operation. It wasn't an infiltration by a Fed. It was just a dude who just went undercover because he personally was like, what's going on with these militias? What's happening here? He saw January 6, 2021. He saw the militia movements and their and how prominently they were a part of January 6, 2021. And he was like, I'm going to go and join these militias. I'm going to go and detail what they're doing. Hey, come on now, be fair. There are tons of cops that are currently infiltrating these militias. Yeah, the problem is the cops that are all over these militias are actually just, ideological sympathizers. I'm sure that there are some federal law enforcement officers involved in these militia movements, not because of their ideological allegiance to the militia movements, but, overall, yeah, I know you're joking, chatter. I know. I'm not missing the joke, chat. Calm down. Many of those that carry the badge are also fellow travelers. So the Capitol riot had been nagging at me too. I'd reported extensively on January 6th. I sat with families who blamed the militias for snatching their loved ones away from them, pulling them into a life of secret meetings and violent plots, or into a jail cell. By the time Williams contacted me, through most of the most infamous groups appeared to have largely gone dark. Were militias more enduring, more potent than it seemed? Some of what he told me seemed significant. Still, before the package arrived, it could feel like I was corresponding with a shadow. I knew Williams treated deception as an art form. When you spin a lie, he once told me, you have to have things they can verify so they won't think to ask questions. While stories generally seem precise and sober, always reassuring for a journalist, I needed to proceed with extreme skepticism. The files that were sent over to ProPublica give a unique window at the once expansive and intimate into one of the most consequential and volatile social movements of our time. Williams penetrated a new generation of paramilitary leaders, which included doctors, career cops, and government attorneys. Sometimes they were frightening, sometimes bumbling, always heavily armed. It was a world where a man would propose assassinating politicians only to spark a debate about logistics. Federal prosecutors have convicted more than 1,000 people for their role in January 6. Key militia captains were sent to prison for a decade or more, but that did not quash the allure that militias hold for a broad swath of Americans. Why would it? After all, Donald Trump initially criticized them, but then turned around and said that they were political prisoners for doing the right thing. Obviously, if the most impactful figure who just won his reelection says that these guys are political prisoners, of course they're going to get away with it. Here, I'll give you one example, okay? We joke about January 6th is funny. A cop died of a stroke the day after, okay? And the suspicion is that the wounds that he got during January 6th from a guy who was beating his ass is responsible for the stroke. That guy's in prison for 6 years, okay? And Donald Trump is most likely going to pardon him. Now, there is no world in which, even if a person punches a cop repeatedly or hits a cop with a blunt object repeatedly, okay, and they die to a stroke the day after, okay? They die to a stroke the day after. There is no world in which they only get 6 years. Even if you used a blunt object to beat a cop, okay, and nothing happened to the cop, there is still no world in which you only get 6 years. Okay, that's like assault of a peace officer with a deadly weapon. Are you kidding me? There's just no world. That is not a real circumstance. The only way this happens is if you're doing this while you are participating in an insurrection for the president. Okay, for the current president who just won his reelection. That's it. Anyway, that cop died a week later in the hospital. My point is, even if nothing happened to the cop, let alone like the cop died or whatever, even if do you think there is a world where the average American can just use an object to bludgeon a police officer, okay, and then get out in 2 years. There are instances where it's valid and warranted, where you are engaging in self-defense, okay, against a police officer who is out of line and abusing their position. Those people do not get this level of leniency from, those people never experience this level of leniency. I'm simply stating that it is crazy. It is crazy that this level of leniency only exists for Republicans, right-wingers that participated in an insurrection. Mishma, thank you for the 25 gifted subs. W Gifter. Now President-elect Donald Trump has promised to pardon January 6 rioters when he returns to the White House. Experts warn that such a move could trigger a renaissance from militant extremists, sending them an unprecedented message of protection and support and making it all more urgent to understand them. Unless otherwise noted, none of the militia members mentioned in the story responded to requests for comment. Williams is part of a larger Cold War, radical versus radical, that stayed mostly in the shadows. A left-wing activist told me he personally knows about 30 people who've gone undercover in militias or white supremacist groups. They did not coordinate with law enforcement, instead taking the surveillance of one of the most intractable features of American politics into their own hands. I think part of the reason why people do this also is because they just don't trust the federal law enforcement officers. Like this person very clearly does not trust the feds, okay? Which is understandable because he's like, I went into the militia movement and I found out that there are, like federal attorneys that are a part of it, people who collaborate with the feds, people who are a part of the criminal justice system, prominent members who are also a part of the militia movement. Skeptical of authorities, militias have sought to reshape the country through armed action. Williams sought to do it through betrayal and lies, which sat with him uneasily. I could have been successful at this if I wasn't one of them in some respects, he once told me. I couldn't have done it so long unless they recognized something in me. If there's one moment that set Williams on his path into the militia underground, it came roughly a decade before January 6th, when he was sent to a medium security prison. He was early in his 20s, drawn to danger and filled with an inner turbulence. I guess he has the background. My mom was one of the founders of the Utah Citizens Armed Militia, which was organized to keep the peace at BLM protests. These militias are strange because they back the police, but they also don't think that the police are bad enough at their jobs that they have to step in. Yeah. They also will, obviously, like with January 6th, fight back against the police as well. And we'll be shocked every step of the way that the police are not collaborating with them, partially because like in their hometowns, the police are definitely collaborating with them. And additionally shocked when, federal law enforcement of the criminal justice system ends up turning on them for doing direct, clear-cut violations of the law. But anyway, before we continue with this, let's take a look at what Funny Hat Man has to say about the January 6 committee members.
And stand on the Capitol steps and be inaugurated on January 20th. When you think about that arc of history, what goes through your mind and how do you think we ended up here?
Well, I'll tell you what goes through my mind is 2000, the 2000 election with George W. Bush and Al Gore when an election was decided by less than 1,000 votes, 450 something votes, and we had a peaceful transfer of power then. When imagine if an election today were really down to that number of votes, and so people like Al Gore and others, upheld the Constitution, and we saw. So I'm really struck by the notion that Kamala Harris will be, serving in that position that Mike Pence did and upheld the Constitution. And so, it's a marked reminder of how important this peaceful transfer of power is. We've had it through history. I saw it in 2000. We're seeing it today, but we didn't see it 4 years ago. And so I hope that this will just remind everybody, that this is how it's supposed to work.
One of the things we've heard, Mark, from Donald Trump is that he plans to pardon some of the people who were at the Capitol that day. Let's listen to what he said about this in December. Take a look.
You promised to pardon those who attacked the Capitol on January 6th. Are you still
vowing to follow through with that promise?
We're looking at it right now, most likely, yeah. These people are living in hell.
Let me just...
And I think it's very unfair. Most likely, I'll do it very quickly. I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day, he says. Mark, what do you think the politics of this are for him? I mean, there are a range of offenses, right, that people were charged with and convicted of or pled guilty to, from violence to trespassing. If Donald Trump goes through with
Trump's like, our prison's obsolete, I'm telling you.
This, is he going to pay a political price? Will Republicans pay a political price?
Listen, I think he's going to try a hybrid. The politics are fraught both ways. I mean, his base, believes him when he said that he's going to do the pardon, so he's got to make good on that promise. On the other hand, it's only going to drag up those violent images of people attacking police, Casey. And so I think what's going to happen is he's going to find the lesser offenders, pardon those people, and the people who, where there was clear evidence of attacking or assaulting officers at the Capitol would be a whole different story, I believe.
Mark, the other, of course, aspect of this is those who then went on to investigate what happened that day, the January 6th committee. Trump has also talked about what he wants to do there, what those people deserve. Let's watch what he said about that.
Everybody on that committee, for what they did, honestly, they should go to jail. I think anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that.
So what about this particular piece of it? If he moves forward.
He's like, he's like, American prisons are ruthless. They're brutal. We must release our political prisoners. Also, all of our political enemies must rot in prison. They must get locked up. We must throw them under the jail. We must do everything we can in our power, tortured under that very same structure that's currently torturing our beautiful, brave American patriots.
With some of the things he suggested that he wants to.
Yeah, Trump is an Angela Davis consumer enjoyer appreciator when it comes to hogs. He's a prison abolitionist for hogs only.
What does that mean for the country? And what is the political impact? Two different things, I would say.
Yeah, well, this is, Casey, this is where I don't think he'll be able to resist his impulse. He wants to punish his opponents and his enemies, including and especially people like Liz Cheney. And this is something
I will say, controversial of me, but I don't care if Liz Cheney goes to jail. I don't care. I think it's good. I think it's funny and good. I'm on board.
Where the Constitution is very clear, but this is also something where people like Kash Patel are being appointed because Donald Trump thinks that's what they're going to do. Remember, he said, "I am your retribution, so stand by." So that's what I expect to see happen on that front.
I was up here, one of those officers up there. I was armed with a rifle that day, so I didn't want to go down in the crowd and potentially have it used or taken. If these are the people that are going to be getting pardons, can you look at this and just say they deserve one? I don't see how.
But President-elect Donald Trump has indicated that he might do just that.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first day.
Issue these pardons.
These people have been there, how long is it, 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
Pardons are one of the president's greatest powers, but also biggest.
But dude, in what world does Liz Cheney go to jail and the federal government doesn't also send you to jail? Wait, what? What do you mean? First of all, I don't think Liz Cheney is going to jail. Okay, there's no serious what is she going to jail for? They've not really mentioned what would be the reason for why she would be thrown in jail. I guess what the chatter is trying to say here, no. What the chatter is trying to say here is that if someone is getting locked up, like Liz Cheney is getting locked up for no real discernible reason, then I am a larger enemy of the state than Liz Cheney in the eyes of the Republican Party. But I think that I have no motion in comparison to these guys who are really tapped into mainstream media and DC circles. So for them, they do see Liz Cheney as a serious enemy or just a nuisance in general. Whereas I am a Twitch streamer and they don't really think about me at all. They don't know who I am, which is good. I want to keep it that way. Let's keep it that way. He didn't even send Hillary to jail. Crazy to think he would somehow be motivated to do that to Liz Cheney. Yeah, So just understand that there is a reason why I am a low-level offender. I do think, do you think there's a serious threat of you getting arrested? No, I do not. I do not think that there's, I mean, only time will tell, but so far, no, I do not think that there is a serious threat of me getting arrested. I have not violated any laws. Not that that really matters, but we shall see. But I don't think so. I don't think that there is anything that I'm a Twitch streamer, guys. And there is, it's easier to send goons after regular civilians. It's silly to think they will just go after Instagram influencers or YouTubers, etc. Yeah. Until President Rishi Torres is elected, yeah. And at that point, I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm getting executed by firing squad.
I guess political liabilities.
And that's what they are, as hostages. They've been treated terribly.
He created expectations, created a movement of people, created a mob that acted, and then walked away. I hope he doesn't walk away from these promises.
Here's what Trump would have to do to carry out those promises and what it means for the people involved in the January 6th attack.
So I still served at the Capitol for 3 years after the insurrection. I left to run for Congress in a fight to continue to hold Donald Trump accountable. When I was unsuccessful, I became a surrogate for first Joe Biden and then switching over to Kamala Harris. Well, I think that anybody who had anything to do with these incidents of that day need to be held accountable.
Of the nearly 1,600 January 6th defendants, all have been charged with some form of trespassing or disorderly conduct, and more than a third have been charged with crimes involving assaulting, resisting, or obstructing law enforcement.
What we went through that day wasn't normal, and we shouldn't normalize it.
A spokeswoman for Trump's transition team said in a statement to the Wall Street Journal that Trump will pardon Americans who were denied due process and unfairly prosecuted by the weaponized Department of Justice.
I know the system. The system's a very corrupt system.
She also said in a separate statement that pardons will happen on
It's always funny when these guys will talk about how like the criminal justice system is evil and corrupt and totally messed up. And I agree, except they say it's only corrupt and messed up for like upper middle class white people, jet ski dealership owners who happen to be pro Donald Trump, who also did violate like a bunch of laws. It's only corrupt against them, the people that are the most protected under our institutions. Okay, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's so messed up. They're coming after our big beautiful auto dealership owners and their fail sons for the crime of being MAGA. It's the actual corruption within these institutions, or the actual evil within these institutions, is very good, very, very good. The norm should happen more frequently. Perhaps not even going hard enough on marginalized people. Then how do you explain the deep state indicting the greatest president of the United States? Exactly. That's right. If anyone's getting jailed for being an enemy of the state is Trump, even now they're trying to throw him under the jail. Who? What do you mean? They're dropping everything at this point. Like at most he's gonna get a slap on the wrist for like mismanagement and doing the hush money scheme where he lied to the New York authorities about where he was, where the money was actually going to, and that's it. The person that obviously actually spent time in prison for that was his lawyer, Michael Cohen. Everything in this system is designed in a way where, like, yeah, your soldiers will go to jail. You will never go to jail.
On a case-by-case basis, but didn't give any details on who might receive them or when. A number of people accused in the attack are already lobbying the president-elect for pardons. One is Joseph Biggs, a leader of the far-right group The Proud Boys, which played a central role in the Capitol riot. He can be seen at the Capitol in footage from that day.
Hey, we're on the concrete.
These guys are real freaks too. Like, it's crazy. Oh my God. Some of these guys are real freaks. Like, look, I don't know about every single person that participated in January 6th. Like, there's 1,000 of them. I'm sure some of them are low-level offenders, and they probably do have a capacity to reoffend if we're being real. But like, some of these hogs are very bad. Okay, like people that were really bad in their own local, in their own localities, notorious. Biggs is one of those guys, right? Long rap sheet in general, even if there isn't priors. But Biggs does have priors as well, if I'm not mistaken. But also, they are responsible for a lot of instability and a lot of violence and a lot of demonstrations. Nancy is doing well. We're so cooked, dude. The gerontocracy. The gerontocracy will save us. Save us, Nancy.
The east side of the Capitol front steps.
Biggs was found guilty of seditious conspiracy, along with several other charges. Court records state that he and other group members helped recruit and lead a crowd that breached the Capitol. Biggs is currently serving a 17-year sentence.
Look at that shirt. He says, registered communists, not firearms. Being this angry at communists has to be a mental illness in America. You know what I mean? Like what valid communist movement even exists in the United States of America? Okay, like you're angry at shadows. Okay, where are the communists? Where are they in 2024, in 2023, in 2022, in 2021? Where are they? In his mind, he thinks Nancy Pelosi is a communist, obviously. So it's like they're ACP. Come on, guys, be serious.
Dear Mr. President,
his lawyer Norm Pattis sent Trump a letter a week after the election.
you are now in a position to close a painful chapter in American history. On behalf of Joe Biggs,
this is the exact type of attorney that I would expect to take on an important political case such as this one can only be taken on by a lawyer that looks exactly like this.
I am urging you to do so by granting Mr. Biggs' request for a complete pardon for his actions that day. I've heard all sorts of hand-wringing about January 6th. You know, I mean, prosecutors, judges referring to it as an attack on the citadel of democracy. But January 6th wasn't an incendiary event. It was one afternoon's riot. There were some injuries. There was a little bit of property damage. There was the national pride. Our national pride was wounded, and the peaceful transition of power was imperiled for an hour or two. And for this, we're going to fill the prisons.
The prosecutions have necessarily focused on the actions of the individuals charged, not the collective harm done by the thousands of people who were simultaneously committing crimes that day.
The idea behind a pardon is that the criminal justice system sometimes gets it wrong and can be quite harsh, and there needs to be a fail-safe mechanism to ensure injustices are addressed.
Kim Whaley is a law professor who wrote a book on the history of pardon power. She says the modern pardon process usually works like this.
There is, within the Department of Justice, an Office of the Pardon Attorney. Someone who is seeking a pardon or commutation fills out.
Look, deterrence does have a capacity to work if it is done against people who previously thought that they were infallible and devoid of any sort of scrutiny from the legal structures. And January 6th deterrence from the federal law enforcement agencies absolutely worked. That is why it eviscerated the mass mobilization that you saw under the Trump administration. And it's not just deterrence from law enforcement. Deterrence from popular mobilization of anti-fascist movements also is significant and also works as well. The greatest example I can give you under the Trump administration was Unite the Right Rally 1 versus Unite the Right Rally 2. The first Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville ended up with the death of Heather Heyer. Famously, a neo-Nazi traveled all the way, I believe, from Ohio to Charlottesville and drove into a crowd of anti-fascist counter-protesters against these Nazis, and he went to prison. But the real reason as to why Charlottesville 2 was marginal, was tiny, was minuscule, was because of the dedicated efforts of people taking matters into their own hands in terms of unmasking Nazis, in terms of engaging in mass mobilization against the growing Nazi movement. So that actually is the real reason why Unite the Right Rally 2 got very few protesters to go out, like very few Nazis to go out and just be like, yeah, we're still Nazis, we're still here. Okay, so that's real. Those are two real ways in which you can actually push back against these sorts of movements. What the F is this bozo? Would he also agree to letting 90% of criminals free? Stealing only takes a couple of minutes, so stealing deserves no jail time. Murder is only a little damage, so it generally takes no more than a minute, so they shouldn't be held accountable. He knows he's playing devil's advocate. I can't imagine a lawyer be so delusional. I mean, it depends. But anyway, my point is this. Okay? He's responding to the chatter is responding to the lawyer who is just like undermining the severity of this insurrection or whatever. But deterrence in this circumstance was very successful. Law enforcement deterrence in terms of like actual legal punishments that were dished out to people who previously thought that they would never, ever withstand legal scrutiny, which is precisely the reason why during January 6th, they were filming themselves, openly identifying themselves, saying their names. There was a famous case of the West Virginia state member of the state legislature from West Virginia, Derek Evans, openly on live stream saying, Derek Evans is in the Capitol. I repeat, Derek Evans is in the Capitol, openly saying his name, referring to himself in the third person on camera. These people then turned around and gave interviews. The reason why they did that without masking themselves, without protecting their identity, is because what they thought was just. They thought their cause was just, partially because they were, egged on by Donald Trump and many other prominent members of the Republican Party into engaging in this act. And also, they are not used to getting any sort of real consequences from law enforcement. They're not. They collaborate with law enforcement. Okay? So when the reality doesn't match their expectations, all of a sudden, they have to start really reconsidering their choices when they go, I don't know if I want to join this kind of uprising again because I might go to jail. And a lot of these people have a lot to lose as well. It's not like they're pushed into a corner. These are HVAC business owners. These are people, these are real POCs, okay? Or POPs, people of privilege, people of capital, POMs, people of means, okay? So in that same vein, I think Donald Trump openly saying he's going to pardon these people and claiming that these people are actually heroes will have the exact opposite effect. It will galvanize people like this to mobilize again. It will embolden them, okay? It will remind them that, no, the law enforcement agencies are on their side. And I fear that that is precisely what's going to happen. I fear that Donald Trump's actions, such as pardoning these people, is going to end up causing them to feel like they were martyrs and they did the right thing and that the president is on their side and that they will want to do it again. Perhaps this time with, more mobilization. Perhaps this time with, direct, with a more consequential, like something that they will do will be more consequential than even January 6th. Better hardware, better mobilization. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Form, it has a bunch of criteria that include acceptance of responsibility, for example. Those pardon attorneys sort through about 10,000 for every 4-year presidential term, make recommendations to the president, and the president can either accept or reject.
But presidents can bypass this process entirely, which also bypasses application guidelines, like one that states convicts are only eligible 5 years after the end of their sentence.
Those aren't constitutional requirements. Those are Justice Department requirements. And forgive me if I'm a little cynical about the Justice Department. I'm not going to the same fox who locked me up saying, can you open the chicken coop door?
While not all pardons that bypass the typical process are controversial, presidents from both sides of the aisle have issued controversial pardons this way, some that left a lasting mark on their presidencies.
Typically, presidents get in trouble when they don't follow any sort of Justice Department process.
Alex Conant is a Republican strategist who worked for Marco Rubio.
When a president uses a pardon to explicitly benefit a political donor or friend, something that your average citizen wouldn't be considered for, that rubs people the wrong way.
Trump issued a number of pardons this way during his first term.
Did the pardon of Sheriff Joseph Arpaio go through the pardon attorney office?
I don't believe it did.
And President Joe Biden recently issued a broad pardon of his son Hunter for tax evasion and lying about drug use. Biden had previously said,
"Have you ruled out a pardon for your son?"
Yes. Nobody likes paying taxes, and you shouldn't get a pass if you're a president's son. And I think Biden's pardons help the J6 case.
I think the fact that Biden has so aggressively used his pardon powers in the final months of his presidency clearly makes it easier for Trump.
I disagree. I think they're trying to tie this back to Biden, but I think Trump was going to do this whether or not Biden pardoned Hunter. This is not a defense of Joe Biden, okay? Trump just does not care. And anyone that tries to make it seem like Trump cares about what the Democrats are doing is so silly. If anything, this is a great opportunity for him to say, oh, you guys are hypocritical for criticizing me for doing this. Sure. Like, it's just giving him more ammunition, but he was going to do this regardless. Okay? Anyone that thinks that Trump wasn't going to pardon these, like if Hunter Biden was not pardoned by Joe Biden, do you really think Donald Trump was not going to pardon the January 6ers? Really? Because if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you. Okay? Ridiculous. He never cared, and he never will care. He will use the Democratic Party's actions to message, certainly, how much. Yeah, nice bridge. Is it a nice bridge? Yes.
To similarly use the pardon powers as he assumes the presidency. If for no other reason, Republicans will be able to point back at what Biden did and to say Trump is no worse than Biden.
But for Trump, the potential ramifications of January 6th pardons are difficult to predict.
We've never had an event like January 6th, so I think pardoning the people that were part of it would be unprecedented by nature.
This is a groundbreaking concept of pardoning people who violently stormed the Capitol to try and wrest power from a legitimate government and hand it to the loser of an election.
A pardon kind of, this may not be the word, but it excuses that behavior, or it says it's okay. So what is to stop them from doing something like that again?
And it's unclear what kind of pushback Trump will receive within Washington.
I think members of Congress have a very different perspective on January 6th than Donald Trump because a lot of them were there. They remember what happened that day, and some of them are scarred by it.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the Republicans that were very upset that they were fearful for their lives very quickly have turned around and decided, no, these are our guys. We like them, actually. Sorry, we were wrong. I mean, look at Josh Hawley. Josh Hawley's a great example. He was running around like a headless chicken on January 6th. Ask him what he thinks about the J6ers now.
And so I don't think that they're going to be cheering Donald Trump's pardons, but
Wait, what the hell was this? What?
Scarred by it. And so I don't think that they're.
What is this? Did they have these like gas masks on because they were worried that they were going to do like a chemical attack or something? What? I don't remember seeing this photo at all. That's crazy. That's for CRBN attacks. It was because tear gas was used in the rotunda. No, the Capitol Police were going to tear gas the building. Yeah,
They did cheering Donald Trump's pardons, but they also aren't in a position to fight it.
But those J6 warriors, they were warriors, but they were really more than anything else. They're victims of what happened.
One of the questions I have is whether there will be a blanket pardon, an amnesty pardon, or whether there will be collective pardons based on perceived loyalty.
My dad doesn't believe that 4 cops off themselves after J6 because of the trauma. I mean, that part is like, I get why you wouldn't believe that. That's like I don't know what he thinks happened instead. Does he think that the government killed them or something? Because that's kind of funny. The government went in and assassinated these cops to make an argument, to make it seem like it was more consequential. Why would cops ever kill themselves? They do. They do all the time. What do you mean?
It will be a large portion of them. They did and it'll be very early on.
Joe Biggs risked his life for this country and was injured, awarded a Purple Heart, and he lost his pension for participating in a riot. That's just wrong.
I mean, this has been 4 years consuming of my life. I wish I was still working at the U.S. Capitol. I wish I was still there, and we didn't have to live that ugly day that happened. But now it is a part of our history. It's not going away. I think it's important to not let people rewrite what did and did not happen that day.
The next chapter will be written when Donald Trump takes the oath of office again and decides which January 6th participants will benefit from the president's extraordinary power.
whenever you pardon somebody who has been convicted of hurting law enforcement, whether it's the January 6th case or anything else, I think that is going to be politically more difficult to explain.
Wait, hold on. So, but getting back to it, like I said, I highly urge you guys to read the ProPublica article that we were talking about beforehand about the guy who just like randomly chose to infiltrate the 3%ers and even rose up the ranks of the 3%ers. And I think that it is a thought-provoking piece that is alarming and perhaps shows what is yet to come, especially considering that these groups are getting emboldened by the Trump regime and will probably be more active in their participation as the disorganized brown shirts that will push for Trump's agenda. Trump's NSC advisor, there will be a cross-governmental effort to combat radicalization where U.S. government will look at mosques, individuals, universities, professors, you name it, that pose a threat to the U.S. and are radicalizing individuals to harm the U.S. Okay, when I hear stuff like this, I do worry that I might go to jail. I will admit. Because they're not talking about white supremacist acts of terror. They're talking about anyone and everyone that is even remotely critical of Israel, for example. Anyone and everyone that goes, hey, hold on now. What is this, what is this argument? Like, we should be hunting down Muslims? I feel like that's a bridge too far. Nope. So that does spark a little bit of fear in my heart. But
now we have
let's move on to the suspect's timeline in the deadly New Orleans terror attack.
Details on the terror attack.
Just want to remind people that if you were to consider this to be like a ISIS radicalized Islamist terror or whatever, right? And there's at least some evidence laid out that this is the case so far. It would be one of the very few domestic radicalized people that were inspired by ISIS or any sort of like Islamist movement, if you want to consider it that, as opposed to the overwhelming majority of right-wing, white nationalist, anti-government extremist attacks, which comprise damn near the entirety of domestic terror incidents on U.S. soil, from school shootings and mass shootings all the way to car rammings and the like. Having said that, however, the previous government rarely ever tackled it, even though it got to such a degree that even under the Trump administration, the FBI kept repeating this point that like white supremacists might be a larger problem for the American government and for the safety and security of American citizens than what we previously thought was Islamic terrorism or whatever. And they didn't really do enough. They didn't really do enough to combat it in general. And I think that they're not going to do that in this upcoming administration at all. If anything, all signs point to them emboldening the people that engage in these sorts of actions with regular frequency.
Now we have new details on the terror attack in New Orleans that killed 14 and injured many others. Trevor Ault is in New Orleans with the latest, including new videos of the suspect allegedly placing explosives. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, Robin. So Mardi Gras season kicks off today, and New Orleans officials are really trying to shore up more resources for security, especially as we are learning chilling new details about the timeline of this attack, those videos of the suspect placing explosive devices beforehand, one of them right here in this intersection on Bourbon Street.
Authorities have unveiled new videos and a detailed timeline of the harrowing New Year's terror attack in New Orleans.
We have a clearer picture today than we did even 2 days ago.
FBI investigators say this video shows the suspect, 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, placing a cooler containing an IED on Bourbon Street at 1:53 a.m. New Year's Day. A half hour later at 2:20, they say he placed a second cooler a block away. And less than an hour after that, at 3:15, he raced down Bourbon Street in his rented F-150, killing 14 people and injuring dozens more. And authorities say it could have been even worse had he been able to detonate those IEDs.
he didn't use the correct device to set it off. And that is just indicative of his inexperience.
Investigators also revealed the suspect traveled to New Orleans 2 times months before the attack, filming this video wearing Meta
Wait, they released the videos he made on the way there?
Glasses riding a bicycle around the French Quarter. They also say in 2023, he traveled to Egypt and Ontario, Canada, and authorities are looking into whether those trips may have played a role in his radicalization.
Our agents are getting answers as to where he went, who he met with, and how those trips may or may not tie into his actions here in our city in New Orleans.
President Biden is set to visit today to grieve with the community as security preparations are underway for Mardi Gras and the Super Bowl.
I have specifically requested through the White House that the city of...
I just don't understand why Bourbon Street. Like this is a dude from Texas. This is something that I just don't really understand. Like, what is the significance of Bourbon Street? It's busy, I know, but like, you think there's no busy places in Texas? It's a massive destination. No, but like, is that a real question? Guys, he's in Texas. You think there's no crowded places in Texas? Am I crazy about that? I don't even think it's like a sinner thing. Massive drinking town on a huge drinking holiday. Like there's 6th Street in Austin, which is far closer to the perpetrator. You know, massively crowded with 0 other cars or obstacles. It's very tight streets, wall to wall with people. Yeah. Also, if New Orleans, like you have Mardi Gras, which would be far more impactful in general. So I think that there are a lot of people that are patching it together after the fact when they think about like Bourbon Street being a target, if that makes sense. Texas is too car brain to have large gatherings in open spaces like this. I don't know. It was a big college game, the Sugar Bowl, a national playoff sport. Yeah, that's definitely something, but I don't know. I don't know why.
New Orleans, B.
Why are you listing ideas for attacks? Sus. Yeah, okay, dude, calm down.
Assisted with getting a tactical expert in our city this week to map our city for target hardening measures, where and how.
And over the weekend, a number of vigils held in memory of the victims, among them 25-year-old Billy DeMaio, remembered by his family as a rare, appreciative soul.
Every room he walked into, he just lit it up with his huge smile and contagious laugh. He was just perfect. He was just a perfect human.
So President Biden is expected here in New Orleans this afternoon, and the mayor says she will be asking him directly about raising the security level and getting that federal security assistance for Mardi Gras, just like they're expecting for the Super Bowl, George.
Okay, Trevor, thanks.
We turn now to the investigation into the news.
Yeah, then there's also obviously the Cybertruck situation as well. But there was one more thing that I wanted to talk about with respect to this. Hold on. That's just a funny tweet. Justin Trudeau's resignation. Joe Biden had a silly take. The Cybertruck one makes no sense. Yeah. By the way, the FBI released more info on the pipe bomber from the day before January 6th. Oh, the FBI is releasing more information about his pipe bomb investigation, including an estimate that the unidentified suspect. Oh, this is one of the craziest ones, because one of the craziest ones here is this guy did actually, like, FBI releases new video of a suspect planning pipe bomb near DNC offices on the eve of the Capitol riot. They never found this guy, the January 6th pipe bomber. They never found him. He got away. Straight up. Guy, by which you mean Marjorie Taylor Greene? Sure. Fair. Hoping to generate new tips from the public, the FBI is releasing more information about his pipe bomb investigation, including an estimate that the unidentified suspect is about 5 feet 7 inches tall. The Bureau is also posting previously unreleased video of the suspect placing one of the bombs. A host of basic questions remain unanswered 4 years later. For starters, investigators haven't determined if the suspect is a man or a woman. Okay, more evidence to suggest that it might be Marjorie Taylor Greene. Fair and balanced. Nor have they established a clear link between the pipe bombs and the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol by a mob of Donald Trump supporters. The FBI can't work on assumptions, said David Sundberg. Yeah, no, he just thought January 5th would be a perfect opportunity to put pipe bombs together. You know, it just happened to be the night before January 6th. Without being able to confirm the suspect's identity, it's very hard to definitively establish motive, Sundberg told the Associated Press. Therefore, it would be difficult for us to state that there is a link, although we can't state there isn't one. In the absence of harder evidence, Republican lawmakers and right-wing media outlets have promoted conspiracy theories about the pipe bombs. House Republicans also have criticized security lapses, questioning how law enforcement failed to detect the bombs for 17 hours. We remain focused on conducting an investigation using all the tools we have at our disposal, Sundberg said, but it is incumbent upon us to follow facts and evidence. The FBI has assessed over 600 tips, reviewed about 39,000 video files, and conducted more than 1,000 interviews over the past 4 years. Images show the suspect was wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, a face mask, black gloves, and a black and gray pair of Nike Air Max Speed Turf shoes with a yellow logo. The person also carried a backpack containing the bombs. Surveillance video captured the suspect placing the pipe bombs. Yeah, the shoes are actually fairly recognizable. Where is it? There's a photo on here. I don't think I doubt that they'll be able to catch this man, but like, look at the shoes. Ball knower? Yeah, he was dripped out the wazoo, it seems. All those events are planned. What? Anyway, Kamala Harris, then the vice president-elect, was inside the DNC offices when the pipe bomb was found outside the building at about 1:05 p.m. on January 6th before the bomb was deactivated. Then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's motorcade passed by the DNC building as she was evacuated from the Capitol, according to House Republicans. So Republicans say that like this is far too sophisticated for a random militia member to do, which is why they're suspecting that this is like a federal agent, and they're claiming that this is the feds that were trying to make it seem like January 6th was more significant than it actually was. That's their argument. This week, the FBI is releasing a minute-long video that shows the suspect sitting on a park bench outside the DNC before placing the first bomb there at about 7:54 p.m. The suspect placed the second bomb at about 8:16 p.m. in an alley behind the RNC, the FBI says. The FBI also is releasing close-up images of the type of Nike sneakers worn by the suspect. Fewer than 25,000 pairs of the same shoes were sold between August 2018 and January 2021. Based on the attire, those are probably the most remarkable or distinctive feature when it comes to clothing the suspect wore. We're hoping that somebody might recognize that. The FBI used surveillance footage to track the suspect's movements through Capitol Hill on the night of January 5th. The suspect initially is captured on video about 7:34 p.m. at the intersection of the 1st Street and North Carolina Avenue. The suspect is last seen on camera around 8:18 p.m. heading east on Rumsey Court. The suspect in this case did a very good job covering themselves up at a time that this would not be abnormal, so it didn't raise any attention, Sundberg said, referring to face masking during COVID-19 pandemic. Video of the suspect was sporadically available and often of poor quality, according to Sundberg. The 17-hour gap between the planting and the discovery of the pipe bombs made it more difficult to identify potential witnesses. Authorities previously offered a reward of up to $500,000 for information leading to the suspect's arrest and conviction. President-elect Trump, who returns to the White House, has repeatedly vowed to pardon some of the many rioters. Sundberg said he didn't expect the change in administration to alter course on the FBI's pipe bomb investigation. We don't know who the suspect is, and I expect that we will continue to work this case until its logical conclusion and we identify a suspect. It's crazy that this was also one of the more consequential parts of January 6th, but because it was thwarted ahead of time before it came to fruition, it's kind of treated as an afterthought. There's also another thing that people say where they're like, oh, no one had anything on them when they were arrested on January 6th. It was just like a simple walk throughout the halls of the Capitol. That's also incorrect. There were people with guns and there were people with zip ties. It's not like weren't there people with guns wait, hold on. Yeah. So RFK Jr. repeats and then retracts long debunked claim that January 6th rioters carried no weapons. Where is it? I have to see an NASA campaign for a comment. Facts first. The claim that January 6th rioters did not carry any weapons is not even close to true, as video footage showed that the very day, and as numerous court cases have further proven, people who illegally breached Capitol grounds during the riot were armed with a wide variety of weapons, including guns, stun guns, knives. Jumped in my 5.0. Thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Yeah. Knives, batons, baseball bats, flagpoles, and chemical sprays. The Justice Department is bear spray, probably. Bear mace. The Justice Department said that in its most recent update on the Capitol riot cases that 122 of the people who have been charged in connection to the riot have been charged with entering a restricted area with a dangerous or deadly weapon. It's another thing that, like, I think it's another thing that the Republicans have very successfully been able to do an onslaught of counterclaims against. So people just like take it as fact. And it is very strange that you can just kind of do that. You can kind of do that about anything, but you can especially do that about anything that the Republican Party decides to just lie about. Very strange situation, Or they're just like, nah, there were no guns. It was peaceful. They just kind of walked in through the halls, and it's like, but it's on camera. Yeah. Also, speaking of January 6 rioters and the like, look at what Ozempic has done to this dude.
And so to me, when I look at Elon Musk X feed, I mean, it basically 95% of it sounds like I wrote it. And I'm not saying.
Yeah. I mean, he's right. The Twitter feed does look like 95% of Twitter does look like Alex Jones wrote it directly. Now, of course, he is personally. Also, is he at Paul Joseph Watson's house? What's going on? Is he shacking up with PJW? A blast from the past?
He's saying what I say, just he sees things pretty much the same as I do on most issues. And he has the biggest voice in the world other than Trump. And he's more prolific than Trump. So technically in the info war, he's more powerful than Trump. And I'm not trying to name names here and say who's who. But in my view, I mean, Musk is wrecking the globalists. So that's why I've been.
Elon Musk is wrecking the globalists. Brother, he has factories in Shanghai. He is of South African origin. He is a billionaire and a defense contractor. He has Neuralink, a company tasked with finding a way to directly microchip American brains. How can you call yourself a conspiracy theorist and think that a man whose brother is closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein, who is the most powerful and the wealthiest billionaire on the planet, is actually fighting against the globalists and not directly the globalists? I just want to remind you guys, this is something I talk about quite a bit, okay? Republicans do not have the capacity to be universally cynical. You can be the guy, the very definition of like a satanic pedophile vampire, but as long as you're like, I am your guy, I love the Republican Party, I want Republicans to win, I'm a patriot, they will turn around and say, no, that's our guy. He's defending our rights. He's fighting against the globalists. What do you mean? The term means nothing. Okay, the term means absolutely nothing if you are deploying against whoever you think is, I don't know, on board with the global homosexual agenda and not the likes of Elon Musk.
Gushing over his transformation in the last 3.5 years is because he's doing irrevocable harm to their agenda. And I'm going to go over some of the good things he's done. But that said, a lot of people have wanted me to attack Musk, and most people just do it for attention, or they're jealous or whatever. And they just want to act like they're the holiest of the free speech people. And most of the time I can't even understand what they're talking about.
I mean, it's the same principle behind, on the one hand, voting for Donald Trump because he's going to root out corruption and eliminate it. Okay. While, he basically creates larger swamp monsters that come from the exact same places that Americans are supposed to despise. But those are our billionaires. Those are our bad guys. So they're working for us. It's just like these people are super duped. That's it. It also is the exact same. It's in the same vein as like people who say Donald Trump is going to be a peaceful dove. He's going to do no new wars. He's going to do no new wars. He's running on an anti-war slant. Meanwhile, there is no indication that he's going to be anti-war. He was very much pro-war when he was in charge of the government, and he will continue to do that, and hasn't even really lied that much about how he is going to be anti-war. He has said he wants to bomb the cartels, for example. And of course, the Fourth Estate will do what they're supposed to do and probably create reasonable ground for Trump's inevitable bombing campaign of cartel positions in Mexico by talking about how dangerous the cartels are for the safety and security of Americans. Donald Trump has also been talking about invading and annexing Canada. Donald Trump is talking about escalating tensions with Iran. But those things are not considered ending wars. Those things are considered ending wars. They're not considered to be pro-war.
Or they twist things, and then I defend Musk, like on the visas, H-1B visas, not defending H-1B visas. I've had big problems with those. It should be massively reformed, 95%. And I mean, I'm the same as Steve Bannon on that. We need a moratorium until, the country's turned around, all the rest of this stuff. We need to get Americans jobs. But I just simply said, Musk has always been for these visas for skilled workers that he needs. And you can get mad at him for that, but he was the big game changer. And Trump probably couldn't have made it past the fraud without him. I mean, let's not lie about that. And so flipping out and saying that Elon Musk has flip-flopped or stabbed people in the back, I said, that's crap. And a lot of people went, oh my God, you're for open borders now. Yeah, right. I just simply said, hey, on that issue or whatever, separate from the issue itself, when you knew what he was for.
He's compromised. This is 2.0. No, he's not compromised. He's just smart. He's smarter than the average neo-Nazi. What do you mean? He is Mr. Regime guy. Of course he's going to defend Elon Musk. If you are a Republican propagandist who is even a little bit intelligent, of course you would defend Elon Musk. Why wouldn't you? He's given you an entire social media platform where you can do an endless amount of neo-Nazi agitation. So yeah, of course Alex Jones is going to defend Elon Musk here. Elon Musk could say anything and everything. Elon Musk tomorrow could be like, I want to do the woke agenda. I want to do gay woke agenda. And Alex Jones will still find a way to just be like, oh, he's just joking. Remember, he's done a lot. He's done a lot for the movement. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. These people that are attacking Elon Musk are, kind of ridiculous if they're actually on board with the right-wing movement. Elon Musk has granted them many benefits. So I get why he's defending Elon Musk, regardless of what Elon Musk is saying about H-1B visas, regardless of what Alex Jones' own personal opinion is.
On that, what is the point of flipping out and behaving like it's something else? But I want to be clear. When I get into this next hour, I'm going to spend an hour on censorship and where it is and where it's going. I am not going to sit here and explain my concerns, and I'm going to wait and see. But just first looks, usually when you have a lot of knowledge, it sounds like fake news because you can define fake news however you want. So it's whoever's defining things is basically saying they're the arbiter of reality. So who defines what's negative? And I can say that obviously when you look at Elon Musk's feed, according to how the left would define something negative, he's criticizing world government. He's criticizing the death cult and depopulation, doing an excellent job. He's criticizing the attempts for post-industrial world and saying we need to keep fossil fuels.
The gravest threat to the established order of business will never be, by those who have power, by the way, will never be the neo-Nazi movement, will never be the right-wing reactionary fascist conspiracy theorists. It will always be an eclectic group of leftists from progressive movements, student movements, campus mobilizations, all the way to trade unions and the socialists and the communists. Okay? These guys know where their bread is buttered. They know not to disrupt too much. They will sometimes engage in disruptive sentiment, attacking the established hierarchy, but only as a way to get their credibility up. Only as a way to say, like, no, you don't understand. I am actually kind of disruptive. Every now and then, maybe there'll be even something about Israel, right? But ultimately, they know not to rock the boat because their overarching goal is to just have proximity to power. And the larger goal for the likes of the Ben Shapiros of the world, for example, is almost always to engage in divisive commentary with the exclusive purpose of trying to make you not pay attention to the actual systematic violence that you are experiencing on a daily basis. Systems of cruelty, oppression, subjugation, and those who control the levers of power. This is precisely the reason why they will turn around and defend the likes of Elon Musk. Billionaires like Elon Musk are the good guys, while simultaneously claim that other billionaires who are the bad guys are actually doing things that Elon Musk is literally doing. They're microchipping you. They're putting microchips. It's like, but Elon Musk is a good billionaire, even though he has a microchip company who's working to put a microchip in everyone's brains. You know? Yes, poopy pee-pee man, like me, a person who has a firm grip on the levers of power.
He is criticizing the poison shot, the open borders, and devastating it. He is exposing the giant child kidnapping rings in England when they're saying it's upwards of 1 million children raped, disappeared, some killed.
What?
And he
1 million children have been kidnapped and killed in England? 1 million children have been kidnapped and killed in England. Like 1 out of every 50 person in England is a child. Let's see what the population of England is for minors. How much of the UK population is under the age of 18? Young people aged 10 to 19 represent 12% of the total population of the UK. 12% of the population. Where children, the population of children is 14 million. Okay. Population age under the age of 18 is 23 million. So 1 in every 23 child has been kidnapped in England. 1 out of 23. Like, you go to school in England, you know, at least one of your classmates has been kidnapped. At least. That's amazing.
He's going after the unelected EU. He's getting all these great people elected. I mean, we're all doing it together, but I mean, there's like a pie of the populace in any country and influence internationally. I mean, Elon Musk is like 30% of the effect, if I had to dead reckon. I mean, he's ramming us over the top. And so I get giddy because my goal is not to kiss Elon Musk's ass.
Oh, they're just finding out about Jimmy Savile. Oh, my God. Uh-oh. He's about to find out who the chief prosecutor was at the time. I can't look away. Uh-oh. BBC shielded one of Britain's worst pedophiles, Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile, once a BBC icon, was revealed as one of the UK's worst pedophiles. Wait till you find out who else was also aligned with Jimmy Savile. Like, who put him in such a prominent position. Oh, that's right. Margaret Thatcher lobbied for Savile knighthood despite warnings. Senior civil servants repeatedly warned Margaret Thatcher about the risks of giving Jimmy Savile a knighthood in the 1980s, one describing the broadcaster as a strange and complex man. Or the royal family, as a matter of fact. Jimmy Savile, all right, England's most notorious pedophile, was firmly planted within the halls of the elite. And he wasn't even just a notorious pedophile. He sexually assaulted babies all the way up to the elderly. Okay? Yes, he was also a necrophile. One of the most evil people on the planet, like individually. Yes. One of the most evil people on the planet. Okay, here, I'm going to give you one example. Okay? I'm going to give you just one example, which will help you understand exactly how evil he was. Jimmy Savile, as one of the most famous television personalities of his time, was a serial philanthropist. He even rebuilt the paralysis wing of one of these famous hospitals in England, I believe, right? In the UK somewhere, okay? He built that hospital, and he had direct access to the patients at Stoke Mandeville Hospital, thank you, where he would go and sexually abuse and assault people who were paralyzed from the neck down in the paralysis wing that he built of the hospital. And he did this for decades. If there is truly someone who is, a devil incarnate, hell on earth, it was Jimmy Savile, a man who was firmly planted within the halls of the English elite.
This whole, isn't he a paedophile line, basically?
Yes. All right. How do they know whether I am or not? How does anybody know whether I am? Nobody knows whether I am or not. I know I am.
Jimmy, are you a paedophile?
Yes.
Okay, dude, come on. They clipped it. They clipped it to, but yeah, this person is talking about how Keir Starmer was the head of the CPS when the investigation was dropped in 2009. Yes. And yes, Stoke Mandeville was a pre-existing hospital. He just funded the paralysis wing with Thatcher's help, just to be clear. Yes, that's what I was saying. He funded and rebuilt the paralysis wing of the hospital, and he would spend a lot of time in the paralysis wing of the hospital straight up sexually assaulting the victims, sexually assaulting those who were staying at the paralysis wing of the hospital that he had built. Keir Starmer was one of the people responsible for, not investigating him. Wait till the Elon Musk. Wait till Elon Musk figures that out. Oh boy.
My goal is to defeat the New World Order, and that's what I've been, trying to explain forever here. Got a new earpiece.
Oh man, just a moral rot. More than 650 victims, by the way. Wait, so what's important? What's so important about him figuring it out? Elon Musk has been landing a lot of blows against the labor admin, Keir Starmer specifically. The problem is there's a lot that you can make fun of Keir Starmer on or criticize his incompetence on. Elon Musk will inevitably use that once he figures that out to, attack Keir Starmer further. Now, when Elon Musk is attacking Keir Starmer, it's a little bit different than someone like myself criticizing Keir Starmer. Elon Musk is attacking Keir Starmer because he wants the Reform Party to control the UK government. The irony, of course, is that the new Labour administration is doing that to themselves already. And yes, as much as I would like to hit Keir Starmer on this issue as well, the link between Starmer and the Savile case is super blurry. There's no significant evidence that he knew how bad it was. A lot was kept from him by the Tory government at the time. So in the interest of fairness, I do not know if Keir Starmer understood the many crimes of Jimmy Savile and then chose to protect him, or if he simply did not know. I don't know. I'm saying I don't know. I don't know. Let's get back to the Cybertruck investigation. One that also is confusing.
We turn now to the investigation into the New Year's Day Cybertruck blast outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. This morning, we're hearing from the ex-girlfriend of the Green Beret identified as the driver. Mola Lenghi joins us with that story. Good morning, Mola.
Well, good morning, Rebecca. Yeah, as authorities investigate that Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas this morning, we're hearing from someone who was in contact with Matthew Livelsberger through his final days.
I failed him. We all failed him.
The ex-girlfriend of Matthew Livelsberger, the man who carried out the Las Vegas blast in front of the Trump Hotel, opening up about their final messages. Alicia Arrett hadn't heard from her ex-boyfriend, Livelsberger, a decorated U.S. Army Special Forces soldier, in over 2 years, when she says he started texting her on December 27th out of the blue, asking how she was.
He was just checking up on me.
What began as casual messages quickly became the last words she would ever exchange with him. The Master Sergeant served in the U.S. Army for almost 20 years. He was even featured on the History Channel series Ultimate Soldier Challenge in 2013.
We're going to go full out just like we've done the entire challenge.
In 2018, when Arrett and Livelsberger were dating.
In the interest of fairness, I will say that History Channel episode that we watched here and investigated thoroughly on the Hasanabi broadcast was absolutely cooked. They cooked the books on that one. They really firmly placed their thumb on that scale. Okay? I just want everybody to understand that History Channel episode is ridiculous. Ridiculous. It was rigged.
He started to open up about the struggles he was facing, at one point texting, "I have been spiraling down the last week or so. Sometimes I get so hopeless and depressed, by far the worst of my life."
He was really open about the trauma he faced and the teammates he lost.
On December 29th, Livelsberger sent pictures of the Cybertruck he rented.
He sent some front views and he shared he felt like he was Batman or Halo.
It wasn't until 2 days later, when the FBI contacted Arrett, that she found out what happened in Las Vegas.
They started to show me a video of him in the Cybertruck. My whole heart broke for him. That he was so broken that he got to that place.
Arrett is still struggling with why Livelsberger would take his own life.
He didn't say anything explicit that would have triggered it, I guess.
On his nearly 20 years of military service, Livelsberger saw multiple combat deployments. The FBI describing the incident in Las Vegas as
The media is so crazy. They're like, yo, this guy's so sick. It's not every day do you have an instance where you have like two military veterans, both that toured Afghanistan, do two separate like incidents. Okay. And on the one hand, the brown guy who converted to Islam is, explained in a very different way. Obviously, the circumstances are different because like Jabbar successfully carried out a terror attack, killing 14 innocent civilians, whereas Matthew Livelsberger Holy shit, I was in 10 special forces group with this guy, Osprey and Prey. I can't tell if this person is like, this is too much. Like after I already interviewed one person that was directly knew one of the people. Is this for real? We got another one too? No, your point. Hers valid. The cousin said she has to worry about Islamophobia. I don't think this woman has the same concern. If you want to come on and talk about Matthew Leifesberger, please send the mods proof that you serve with this guy, and we'll have you on. Or if you want to talk about it, why not? Are you telling me we have door kickers in the audience? Yes. I think people routinely forget how many veterans and how many active duty service members are in this community. It's so funny when dude, I serve predominantly an American audience, okay? Like, it's not shocking at all. The American military, the Defense Department, is the second largest hiring body in the country. I explain this with regular frequency to people who are still shocked by this. It's no different than having someone in the chat be like, yeah, I work for Walmart, okay? Or I work for Amazon. Walmart is the largest hiring body in the country. The second largest is the Defense Department. It's the Pentagon. Also, I would go so far as to say that, given the experiences that people go through, if you have toured, you have an even higher likelihood of becoming radicalized against American capitalism and American wars in general. So,
tragic case of suicide by a highly decorated service member struggling with PTSD and other issues, guys.
Sad beyond words, Melda. Thank you.
We're seeing Canadian Prime Minister Justin
All right,
Trudeau.
we're not going to get to the Canada stuff yet. Hold on. There was more I wanted to talk about. A couple of reasons as to why the media coverage is very different with Leibesberger is that obviously, first and foremost, he's white. Okay, that's important. He's also a door kicker, more decorated than Shamsuddin Jabbar. Didn't do it for ISIS, and also killed, 0 people except for himself. Those are the major reasons as to why the media coverage is a little different. Oh, also he's a Trump supporter. More importantly than the fact that he's white, he is also a Trump supporter. So there's that. But once again, even white guys that engage in actions, okay, if those actions are declared disruptive to the regular order of business, they will be considered terrorists by the state. Luigi Mangione comes to mind. Anyway, I saw this as well. From 1990 to 2010, about 7 persons per year with U.S. military backgrounds committed extremist crimes. Since 2011, that number has almost jumped to 45 per year. Now, one might say this number has increased because MK Ultra. I don't think it's that. I don't think that is the case. I think that, I don't think it's MK Ultra or anything like that. I think it's more so that there are more people touring. There are more people that are directly in combat since America's war on terror. Since in this time frame, the thing that changed from 1990 to 2010, what changed significantly from 2010 onwards is the reality that there are far more individuals that went overseas to actually go and engage in direct combat. So I think it's more so a chickens coming home to roost type situation rather than a direct CIA sleeper cell initiative or something. We forget that Timothy McVeigh was a vet and washed out of Ranger School before being radicalized by Ruby Ridge and Waco. Yep. During an interview, saying your ex-infantry is an immediate no-go because they're afraid you're going to kill your coworkers. Also, a lot of people join at the lowest point of their lives. There are a surprising amount of suicide people who treat military as their last resort. Yeah. How do we know he was a Trump supporter? Even in the end, it feels weird that he did this at the Trump hotel and still claims to support him. I know. Something about that also doesn't really fully add up either. Yeah. New York Times is also hitting the ISIS note pretty hard with Shamsuddin Jabbar. A terrorism resurgence. We explore the main reasons for ISIS's resurgence. Fourth, Hamas's October 7 attack on Israel and the ensuing war seem to have encouraged more attacks. Hamas fighters streamed some of their killings. that day, partly to inspire copycat terrorism. We've seen the threat from foreign terrorists rise to a whole nother level after the October 7th. Christopher Wray, the FBI director, told Congress last spring. Hamas and ISIS, they're the same, is a ridiculous thing to claim because Hamas does not bear similarities to ISIS, especially when Israel is a much similar point right there. I mean, even very old mass shootings were done by vets. Texas A&M massacre was done by a Marine. Lee Harvey Oswald was also a Marine. It's wild. It's wild that they're looking at the situation and going, it's wild that the situation, I mean, this right here is so insane that it is no different than tying Iran to the war on terror. A ridiculous lie that the American government presented at the time. The axis of evil speech, the famous axis of evil speech, tied Iran to the post 9/11 war on terror. Ironically enough, the American government used Iranian targets and Iranian intelligence in their war on terror. If you understand anything about the region, okay, if you understand anything about this region, you know for a fact, and you have seen it. You've seen this reality unfold time and time again, that Iran and the axis of resistance in the region are not exactly fond of the Salafist brigades. There are significantly more allegiances to the West amongst those who fund and facilitate ISIS-style groups. Our guy, HTS, the leader of HTS that now rules over Syria, is a former Al-Qaeda leader. It is ridiculous. It is completely ridiculous to say it is Iran or Hamas that is aligned with these people. Hamas is one of the few groups in the region that gets funded by Iran or has logistical support by Iran that is not a Shia group. Hamas is a Sunni group that is invested in only one thing. And it's not just Hamas either. It is a broad group of different ideological backgrounds that are invested in only one cause, and that is emancipation and the end to the Israeli occupation. The fact that New York Times would mislead their audience like this is ridiculous. And it is no different than George W. Bush saying, that's right, the axis of evil is famously Iran, and also North Korea. The Times also tried to tie Luigi to the New Orleans attack. They had a whole heading about it, literally just grasping at straws at this point, shaking my head. Yeah, and this is, I think, the last-ditch effort of the Fourth Estate as their remaining credibility falls apart in the eyes of even their most loyal supporters. I think that they are missing the forest for the trees. Okay? Yes, here is obviously Hamas and ISIS hate Israel and each other. Ironically enough, I don't think ISIS hates Israel. I'm going to be honest with you. Times of Israel writing this article, but don't really think that ISIS hates Israel that much. Years-long conflict between terror groups resurfaces as 3 Hamas policemen in Gaza killed this week in suicide attack blamed on the Islamic State. ISIS and Hamas do, as a matter of fact, hate one another. Okay? That is true. You can say that it's because Hamas doesn't want any other game in town. You know, fine. If you want to believe that, that's fine. But they are not exactly fond of one another. ISIS fighters attacked Israeli Defense Forces unit, then apologized, claims former commander. Moshe Alon reportedly referred to a clash with ISIS-linked group last November. This is from Monday, 28th August. This is from 28th of August, 2017. I'm going to keep running these again. Israel gives secret aid to Syrian rebels. Fighters near Golan Heights in Syria receive cash and humanitarian help. Before people tell me, once again, Hassan, you're, I can't believe you're saying this. I can't believe you're doing this. Moshe Alon, for the record, is the ex-defense minister. The Israeli government has given aid to Syrian rebels. The Israeli government has also personally helped render medical aid to some of these militants. How can it be for the only game in town when they operate in close coordination with all the other groups as well as PIJ and etc.? yeah, I'm just trying to tell people that I'm just trying to prove to people that even are skeptical that Hamas and ISIS have never been aligned. I don't agree with that anyway. They don't want to be the only. I mean, Hamas doesn't care about being the only game in town. They only care about fighting against Israeli sovereignty. That's it. If they wanted to be the only game in town, they wouldn't be making advocacy. They wouldn't be advocating to release political prisoners that would harm their political goals overall. If their political goals were simply to be the firm controllers of the Palestinians. Israel has been regularly supplying Syrian rebels near its border with cash, as well as food, fuel, and medical supplies for years, a secret engagement in the enemy's country's civil war aimed at carving out a buffer zone populated by friendly forces. The Israeli army is in regular communication with rebel groups, and its assistance includes undisclosed payments to commanders that help pay salaries of fighters and buy ammunition and weapons, according to interviews about half a dozen Syrian fighters. Israel has established a military unit that oversees the support in Syria, a country that has been in a state of war. Being the devil's advocate, how do you respond to people that say Hamas did a civil war to fortify their power? That's ahistorical. Hamas didn't do a civil war to fortify their power. The American government tried to do a coup d'etat against even the Fatah party at the time's wishes after a failed election. They set up a failed election. The election ended up understandably going at the end. The election that took place ended up understandably giving more power to Hamas, which was seen as the less corruptible forces at the time, because this came in the heels of almost 2 decades of failed negotiation talks, as the Palestinian Authority, led by the Fatah party, was seen as a collaborator, understandably, in the minds of Palestinians, a collaborator of the Israeli security force, which they are. And they were Palestinians were understandably very frustrated with the Palestinian Authority and Fatah, and chose to go in the direction of the anti-corruption party. In the aftermath of that failure of an election for American interests, they tried to do a coup d'etat. The coup d'etat failed, and Hamas solidified its support. It was not a civil war that took place. It was a failed American coup, just so you understand. Hamas has also engaged in numerous high-profile executions of these militants that tried to set up shop in the Gaza Strip, for the record. So the notion that these two groups are connected to one another is absolutely ridiculous. And the only reason why that actually plays in any way, shape, or form in American media is pure racism, nothing else. Okay? Pure racism. Oh, Hamas, ISIS, these guys are both scary Muslims. So they must be in line with one another, as opposed to the not so scary, our friends in the region, the Jewish nation state of Israel. That's the black and white of it. If you operate on the childlike understanding of political conflict in the region, then yeah, you will make that association. You will run with that association. It's pretty crazy. Anyway, speaking of Israel, actually, let's talk about this as well. Dropsite did some coverage from Ynet. No rape allegations were filed in the October 7 attacks, the Israeli prosecutor says. Ynet spoke to Moran Gaz, who, until recently, led the Security Cases Division at the Southern District Prosecutor's Office in Israel and was a member of Team 710, responsible for cases involving captured Palestinians in connection with the October 7th attacks. On investigations related to sexual violence, she says, in the end, we don't have any complainants. What was presented in the media compared to what will eventually come together will be entirely different, either because the victims were murdered or because women who were raped aren't willing to expose it. She excludes here another explanation that no rapes occurred. We approached women's rights organizations and asked them for cooperation. They told us that no one had approached them. There were parents who reached out to organizations asking what to do if something happened to their daughter, but they didn't reveal the abuse. Attorney Moran Gaz, until recently in charge of the security cases at the Southern Prosecutor's Office and a member of the 710 team that handles Hamas crimes on Black Sabbath, wants to see everyone who crossed the fence then stand trial and receive the death penalty. I don't have a drop of mercy. Sorry. But she testifies up close that the path to bringing justice is slow and full of obstacles, especially with regard to sexual offenses. Unfortunately, it will be very difficult to prove them. In this matter, I would lower expectations. Ben Hattar was also responsible for the area of sexual offenses. In the end, we have no complainants. What was presented in the media compared to what will ultimately emerge will be completely different, either because the victims were murdered or because the women who raped them or because the women who were raped are not prepared to reveal it. We contacted women's rights organizations and asked for cooperation. They told us that they simply did not contact them. There were parents who contacted the organizations and asked what to do if something happened to their daughter, but they did not disclose the abuse. In this matter, I would lower expectations. I know there is public expectation, and I understand the needs to address the horrific sexual crimes and sexual assaults that have been committed, but the vast majority of them will not be able to meet the threshold of proof in court, and the criticism will ultimately come to the prosecutor's office unjustly. Will the New York Times, follow through on their coverage? I don't know. So Hamas doesn't want an Islamic caliphate like ISIS? No. What? No. Israel's former prosecutor in charge said that when her office spoke with sexual violence crisis centers and organizations supporting survivors, some families reached out asking essentially, what do I do if my daughter has experienced sexual violence? However, they did not disclose whether any sexual violence had occurred. Here's more of the translated article from Ynet interviewing one of the main prosecutors on the case. The biggest difficulty is evidentiary, explains Gass. Using evidence to link to a specific crime to a specific defendant when dealing with dozens of crime scenes where hundreds of suspects were caught and thousands of offenses were committed is almost impossible. The usual laws of evidence are not suitable for this event. There are no organized chains of evidence. There is no one who filmed the videos you want to present in court. Legislation needs to be amended. Otherwise, it is impossible to deal with these cases. But even amending legislation can't be applied retroactively, so it won't exactly work here. There really needs to be reform of the legislation in terms of evidence so you can file an indictment. I hope they're doing it, but everything is going too slowly. In the end, you need a confession in a case like this. You need everyone to tell what their part was in order to build a story of a place. How many terrorists were in that place, what they did, what the advanced planning was, how far in advance they knew. All of this is important from an evidentiary point of view. But surprisingly, in the interrogations of these terrorists, they try to minimize the nationalistic aspect. From my experience in security cases, most terrorists are very proud of what they did and do not hide it. They also tell the interrogator that they are very proud. Even on October 7, you could learn how they behaved from the GoPro camera recordings, how motivated and ideologically imbued they were. But the bottom line is that most of the Black Sabbath terrorists turned out to be cowards. In interrogations, no one admits to shooting. I shot and didn't hit. I was injured immediately when I entered the outpost. I had restraint. That's not how I'm used to seeing terrorists. One reason for the delay in the prosecution is an attempt not to sabotage the chances of the abductees' return. Another reason is the fear that Palestinians and human rights organizations in Europe will increase initiatives for a legal counterattack against Israel. In the meantime, alternatives have been considered, such as establishing a special court for the massacre of terrorists or imposing jurisdiction in this matter in the military court in Lod, which was closed in 2000, and until then dealt with those accused activities against state security. The issue here is that the Israeli government flubbed, and the Israeli, the initial organizations that were on the ground destroyed all evidence, not deliberately. I'm not saying that at all. So why you say this without proof? What? Are you talking to the person who wrote this article? What? Aren't they all cut from the same cloth? Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS, Al-Shabaab? What? The history of Jews were the first and Christians the Muslims. So what are you saying? What? What is happening right now? Fuck us on, death to Turkey, call us peasants. Where is this peasant thing coming from? Is this like the new meta? Did something pop off on Twitter where someone clipped me making fun of peasant mentality? You said it, bozo? Or is that the same chatter? Yes, dude, if you defend your Lord King and your God, then you have peasant mentality. It's true. Sad to say. The Enron report from like 6 months ago stated that there were 5,000 photographs and 50 hours of footage total of cell phones, surveillance, body cams, and dash cams. And the Enron report stated there was zero digital evidence found, not to mean no sexual violence happened. Yes. So basically they just don't have any evidence. Part of that is because they ruined forensic evidence in the immediate aftermath of October 7. And the other reason for it is because there wasn't any evidence with the exception of one, according to the UN reports, that happened. They also did not allow international. They did not allow for outside investigators to go in and apply, some rigorous standard of forensics. So ultimately, I think running with the New York Times narrative on this is so crazy. Like that there was directed mass rape that took place. Okay. This was really funny as well. Here's another Ynet article that I wanted to talk about. I mean, funny, but if it wasn't so scary at the same time. The fact that Israel internally publishes a guide to escape war crimes prosecution is amusing enough. Let me share some excerpts, which are even more hilarious. YNetNews.com, a guide for IDF soldiers. Here's how to act if arrested abroad and what to check before flight. Does sharing footage online increase legal risk? Definitely. Soldiers who post videos online provide hostile organizations with potential evidence to support suspicions against them, according to Kaufman. How can I check if my destination poses a risk before traveling? Human rights organizations publish reports online detailing the application of universal jurisdiction in various countries. Consulting an international criminal law expert is strongly recommended. Minor content such as racist songs. What precautions should be taken before traveling? Soldiers should avoid posting photos or videos from their service, especially content showing destroyed buildings, even if there's a military justification. Such posts violate operational security and could harm Israel's image. Some countries might treat seemingly minor content such as racist songs as incitement to genocide. Will traveling become safer after the fighting ends? The threat may not diminish and could even intensify as Gaza opens to human rights groups and foreign journalists. I wonder why. Yeah. If the fighting is diminished and international human rights organizations have the opportunity to actually investigate the full scope of the genocide that Israel has committed, then all hell might break loose for you. So you might not actually be able to go to your travel destination. Also, here's a fun story, and this is the reason why people are talking about this. An Israeli occupying force soldier went to Brazil. The Hind Rajab Foundation has verified information that Israel is imminently attempting to smuggle suspected Israeli war criminal Yuval Vagdani out of Brazil because of the Brazilian court order for police to take investigative measures against him. There are also indications of evidence being destroyed. This is not only a scandal, but an affront to Brazil's sovereignty and rule of law. Israel has employed similar tactics before. So he escaped, not dissimilar to others that have done so in the past, to Argentina to avoid a war crimes arrest warrant. Literally, only the IDF could get away with something as flagrant as this. Excuse me. There are plenty of others who have also fled to Argentina in the past. This is not the first time a fascist has fled to Argentina to avoid legal scrutiny for their participation in genocide. Okay? That is not the first time. Okay? Not the first time. Possibly not the last, but certainly not the first time that this has happened. A new twist on an old favorite. Yep. Anyway, so that was a brief little update on that front. And now it's time to talk about Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, pour one out for everyone's favorite blackface enthusiast, Justin Trudeau. After nearly a decade of controlling the Commonwealth nation of Canada, Justin Trudeau's regime has come to a tumultuous end. Are you serious? Did you see what's going on with Twitch? What's going on with Twitch? What happened? No more top of the hour ad breaks? Yeah, no more. But you can still subscribe at the top of the hour or in the middle of the hour or whenever you choose to do so. Although I am not running top of the hour ad breaks, you can still subscribe if you would like to. For $6 or for free with a Twitch Prime. That's a two-parter that I'm not even going to be banning because for good old time's sake, he reminded me that it is the top of the hour. You can also get gifted a sub if you are lucky. This is a way to show your support to the broadcast. It comes out to basically, 0.5 cents an hour for the unlimited content.
Step up to the microphone now. Let's listen in.
Every morning I've woken up as Prime Minister. I've been inspired by the resilience, the generosity, and the determination of Canadians. It is the driving force of every single day I have the privilege of serving in this office. That is why, since 2015, I've fought for this country, for you, to strengthen and grow the middle class. Why we rallied to support each other through the pandemic, to advance reconciliation, to defend free trade on this continent, to stand strong with Ukraine and our democracy, and to fight climate change and get our economy ready for the future. We are at a critical moment in the world. You all know I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians, I care deeply about this country, and I will always be motivated by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election. A new Prime Minister and leader of the Liberal Party will carry its values and ideals into that next election. I'm excited to see the process unfold in the months ahead. We were elected for the third time in 2021 to strengthen the economy post-pandemic and advance Canada's interests in a complicated world. And that is exactly the job that I and we will continue to do for Canadians. Merci beaucoup, mes amis.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now go to questions, starting with Laurence Martin, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, Monsieur Trudeau.
Decide to resign now after all the squabbles in the party over the past months. I'm not somebody who recoils easily before such enormous challenges before the party and the country, because I'm doing this job in the interests of Canadians in Canada and to defend the democracy which I cherish. But I realize that I cannot be the leader in the next elections.
All right, I want to bring in CNN's Paula Newton in Ottawa. We also have Jeff Zeleny standing by for us in West Palm Beach. Paula, first to you, though. I mean, here you have Justin Trudeau stepping down, resigning as the leader of the Liberal Party in Canada. He's been at the helm there for 11 years. Is this a case of Trudeau jumping before he's pushed?
Absolutely, 100%. And he basically said so in the last few moments there that we heard from him. He said, look, I can't possibly fight what will be an incredibly difficult election campaign for a government that's almost a decade old if I have to continually fight these internal battles. Now, look, there have been a long list of scandals as well as some achievements that he outlined there. But again, so many members of his...
I love this story because Justin Trudeau did the classic. I guess if nobody wants me, I'll die. And virtually everyone is like, nah, that's awesome. Like, he hit the, oh, I'll just kill myself, I guess. Nobody really likes me at all. And everyone was like, yeah, we don't like you, dog. It's awesome. Please do that. Oh, man. Seems to me like nobody gives me the credit I deserve. The first brown boy to get it popping. This is, I mean, it's just so, it's so bad. But also, once again, another case of liberals, you know, and their incompetency paving the way for a ridiculous conservative administration to man the ship. That's why I always laugh at people being like, yo, you guys are accelerationists. It's like, no, dude, no, the acceleration is coming from inside the house. It is the liberals that consistently claim that there is nothing more that they can do that lead the way for absolutely awful individuals. Pierre Poilievre is the greatest example of this. Now, because it's Canadian politics, like, he still comes across as a relatively softer liberal, but you know, we'll get into it. Poilievre, whatever. Poilievre? Poilievre? I don't know how you Poilievre? Look, I'm not an Anglophone, but you're turning me into a I'm about to say something that's going to upset a lot of the Quebecois, okay? Pee-pee. His name is Pee-pee. What? As a 3-time liberal voter, I was sick of his shit. He was like, Brandon, get out of the way. Really hope the MDP would take notes when the USA and go farther left. I also think Canada's still too racist to have a man wearing a turban be the PM. Whatever. Polar here. Polar. I'm going to say polar. Polar. Paul Polar. What the hell is Pierre? I don't understand your made-up language, sir. Isn't this an American country? What the hell?
Own government coming to him and saying, we don't believe that you can beat conservative party leader Pierre Poilievre in the next election, an election that has to be held by the end of the year. And Pam, as I've been saying all morning, stop me when this sounds familiar. This really leaves his party in a tough squeeze. The polls already indicate that they are more than 20 percentage points behind, and now they're going to have this succession battle, and it will be rough with a lot of different people putting their hat in the ring. In the meantime, you have President-elect Trump coming into office, I don't have to remind you, in 2 weeks, threatening 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods imported into the United States. It is a tall order by any stretch. He will stay to be a so-called caretaker prime minister, but also Parliament will not be sitting. And that'll be interesting because it means that no government business can basically get done. It's really just governing on an emergency basis, if you will. Again, a lot of moving parts here. I will add to all of this. Canada just assumed the G7 presidency at the beginning of 2025. G7 meeting supposed to happen in Alberta, Canada in June. A lot on the plate here. And the Prime Minister really putting a personal touch on this, saying that, look, I had a discussion with my 3 children at dinner last night, and that's when I made the decision, something we all know he did not want to do.
Jeff, to bring you in on this, it wasn't that long ago. It was November 29th, where Trudeau met with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago. We have seen Trump belittle Trudeau, right? I mean, he posted on Truth Social that he was the governor of the great state of Canada. You know, they've had a tumultuous relationship over the years, and now you have Trudeau resigning as the leader of the Liberal Party in Canada.
Certainly an extraordinary move, and one that was likely not on the mindset of the Prime Minister as he traveled down just in the weeks after the election. As you were saying, Pamela, that was a chance for Justin Trudeau to perhaps look for a lifeline from.
I wasn't implying that Pierre Poilievre is a Quebecois. I was just saying that I'm going to piss off the Quebecois by making fun of francophones, like French speakers. No, he's something so much worse. As far as I understand, he's something so much worse. While he is of French origin, he is from objectively the worst. He's from objectively the worst part of Canada, the most American part of Canada. A lot of people in the chat are already saying it. Alberta. Donald Trump didn't even need to take over Canada. Donald Trump didn't even need to do any sort of like military action, because the most susceptible to like being annexed by America, the people that want America to annex the country, are now going to be running the country.
Donald Trump for his own leadership in Canada. That, of course, did not happen shortly after that dinner in Mar-a-Lago. And it was not a bilateral meeting. It was not a long conversation. Justin Trudeau was seated at a dinner table with about 10 other people or so. So perhaps that was also a sign of just the level of the meeting was rushed in some respects, but was also certainly not a long conversation about things to come. But since then, Donald Trump has been belittling and mocking the Prime Minister, of course, the beleaguered Prime Minister, as well as suggesting that Canada should be the 51st state of the United States. Of course, not going to happen regardless of who the Prime Minister is. However, this does certainly raise questions for Donald Trump as well. Will he try and involve himself in the elections in Canada? How does he deal with this caretaker government? Do the tariffs he has proposed actually go through? We shall see. There are more questions at this very moment, as is often the case here, than there are answers. But 2 weeks from now, Donald Trump, after taking the oath of office, 2 weeks and 1 hour from now, this will be his challenge and his problem as well. But for now, no question, this is a very major development that certainly was not foreseen when Justin Trudeau came down here to Palm Beach just a few weeks ago, Pamela.
Yeah, you mentioned, we'll have to wait and see if Trump meddles in this upcoming election in Canada. You also have to wonder if Elon Musk will be weighing in as well. We've seen him weigh in other elections in other countries. So a lot to keep our eye on here with this breaking news of Justin Trudeau resigning as the leader of the Liberal Party in Canada. Thank you both, Paula Newton, Jeff Zeleny.
I told the kids last night at dinner, he said. Today, he told the rest of Canada.
I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister.
9 years ago, a political lifetime away. 43, fresh-faced. A new Liberal darling sweeps a new Liberal Party to power in Canada.
I, Justin P.J. Trudeau, do swear that I will be faithful...
On a popular wave of taxing the wealthy, pro-immigration, and fighting the climate crisis.
So help me God.
Yeah! Hold the line, troops! Hold the line!
Fast forward, fast downward. The Freedom Convoy of truckers.
Yeah, he really did that, huh? Doesn't that strike you? Interesting. So you mean to tell me that he went on a left-wing, somewhat left-wing populist campaign only to throw it away in its entirety once assuming office? That's weird. That never happens. That's such a strange thing. And it's crazy because his Liberal Party is saying that he went too far left.
Blocking highways to the capital, Ottawa, and a host of other cities across the nation. On the face of it, a protest about COVID restrictions, but it grew to symbolise growing discontent over inflation, the housing crisis, and generally being fed up with the long-running ruling party. Sounds familiar? And then came trouble with the noisy next-door neighbour, US President-elect Donald Trump, suddenly demanding Canadian action on illegal drugs and immigration coming south into the US. Sorted, he said, or face 25% tariffs on American imports.
I'm a big believer in tariffs. I think tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich.
Over dinner, Shea Trump in Florida, Trudeau offered to act. Critics said the whole trip looked desperate, and it led in part to the critical departure of his finance minister and deputy. All that coming after almost 24 of his own MPs had written to him, begging him to go. Trump then heaped on more humiliation, suggesting, not totally unseriously, Canada should be abolished into the 51st state of the US.
Let it become a state.
It wasn't clear whether Trudeau would be retained as 51st state governor.
Well, you don't have to worry about that no more.
So resignation in a blizzard of political change today. And in an irony of nature, the day when Canadian winter temperatures descended on so much of the US, where the incoming president has played a key part in ending the Trudeau years in power.
Well, I know under my watch for Ontario, it'd never be for that at all. We have the greatest country in the world. We have the greatest province anywhere. Any sub-sovereign nation is Ontario and the rest of the provinces as well.
You think he's joking?
You know something, to the president, I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time? So, it's not realistic. I know he likes making these comments and he likes joking around. I take that seriously. He may be joking, but under my watch, that will never, ever happen.
This morning, we want to bring you the reaction from the opposition leader, the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre.
What are you going to do about it, bitch? No, but actually, what are you going to do? Why is annexing Canada wrong? Come on, guys. Okay, I've joked too much about this. I feel like now it's becoming a serious situation and I can't joke about it anymore. Oh my God, I should have never joked about it to begin with.
Damn, this guy's good.